am glad that spring is basically here. We get daylight savings on Saturday, right?
Yeah.
So
It's
we're
coming up.
spring forward, we lose that hour of sleep, but it'll be so nice when the sun is out until 7 p.m. starting next week. So fired up for some spring.
Give me some warm weather and a nice just radio channel to listen to.
There you go. Keep it tuned right here. And of course, lots going on over the next week. Both the Preds and the Titans with some roster acquisition or subtraction could be going on. The Preds looking ahead to the trade deadline on Friday. A loss yesterday that it puts them in a little bit of a bind here. And I know you were working that game, Nick. Up to one, I was like, man, they might pull this one off. But you lose, you give up those 3 goals at the end, 4-2 loss to Detroit. Now you got the back-to-back today against Columbus. This feels like a massive game for the Predators if they're going to stay close enough in the playoff race where Barry Trotz doesn't feel like it's in the team's best interest to sell off a bunch of these pieces.
Yeah, looking at tonight's game, I look at it as a must-win game for the Nashville Predators because you have another game before the deadline on Thursday, and you wonder if they lose tonight, that probably will drop them a little bit down in that wild card standings. They're only 3 points out, like you just mentioned, from the second wild card spot, but that it's a uphill climb for them. And if they can get a win tonight, come within 1 point or 2 points, whatever it may be for that wild card spot, win on Thursday night,
right?
You're back in the saddle, and that's what they need to be. And I've been saying this since November. They need to add that. I think they'll make the playoffs. If it's even one of those last wild card spots to get in, that to me, that's still a good thing because right now you have a core that is not getting any younger. Go for it. Just go for it.
I agree. You want playoff hockey here, but at some point, Barry Trotz has to make a decision, right? And I still think they're going to make some trades no matter what. Like they're going to send some pieces away that it just makes sense to get what you can, especially for the expiring contracts. Like Eric Howla, I think he's gone. Expiring deal, 1-year deal. His price tag is probably about as high as it's going to get. So I think he gets traded. But some of the bigger pieces, obviously, that maybe aren't on expiring deals and could be around next year, these are the decisions Barry Trotz has to make. And I agree with you. Like, if they want to stay in the playoff hunt and stay close enough that Barry Trotz believes that this team can make a run, they got to win tonight. I hate saying must win on a game in early March, but it does feel like for the psyche of the team and the decision-making from Barry Trotz, you've got to win this game because you lose this one, you're now 48 hours away from the trade deadline tomorrow. Barry Trotz has to start making some decisions. He can't just keep pushing this off and say, all right, well, if we win against Boston on Thursday, then we'll make trades. No, these markets are developing right now. Teams are going to start making moves over the next couple of days. Barry Trotz has to have a plan of action. And not that one game is going to decide it, but I think a win or a loss tonight could show a lot about what this team is going to be down the stretch of the season.
Yeah, and I'm not sure what the NHL trade market is like if you're late to the party for, offloading players or whatnot. Because if you're late to the party and you're trying to make a deal and someone's like, no, we already got somebody else on hold, then you're SOL. You're in the middle of the water and you don't have any floaties. You're sinking.
That's what it is, right? Is this market is going to develop and teams are going to, maybe Ryan O'Reilly's the name I'm going to use because that's the big fish. To use the flag behind you.
Pretty good.
That's the big fish, Ryan O'Reilly for the Preds. And I don't think he gets traded. But let's say Barry Trotz has 5 teams lining up to trade for Ryan O'Reilly. They're going to get impatient at some point and say, you know what, we may not get Ryan O'Reilly, but we can go get another good option who can help us that maybe isn't going to cost as much, but we can't sit around waiting forever. The Preds have to make a decision on a plan of action. And Again, I don't think it's all based on tonight, but I do think tonight you're 4 points out of a playoff spot right now. If you lose tonight and you fall back to 5, 6 points back, I really struggle to see this team being in a spot where it's like, hey, we're going to just keep it going and see what happens. As I know you probably need to change something up and build for the future at that point.
Yeah, I mean, if if that is the case, if they end up losing tonight and then you offload a guy like Ryan O'Reilly and yesterday when Jonathan Marchessault, put home that little one-timer from O'Reilly, to me, I think that just increases his value. Anything that Marchessault does on the ice, that you're going to literally have to exponentially throw it out there saying, yeah, he is a great player, because there is not much value for a guy like that right now looking at his tape because of his injuries, his previous injury history.
If Marchessault wants to be traded, I think he gets traded. Like, I think the Preds are ready to move on from Marchessault, but he does have a no movement clause. So it's like he's got to agree to it. I think it might be in the best interest of both parties to make that move. But you obviously have to get his approval on anywhere he's going to go. So there's a lot that needs to be sorted out before Friday. The trade deadline in the NHL, going to be a lot of moves over the next few days. The Preds still have 2 games remaining before the trade deadline on Friday. At Columbus tonight, Boston at home on Thursday. Couple more news and notes. The WBC opens up tomorrow.
Thank you, Lord.
I'm fired up. It's what, Australia and Chinese Taipei tomorrow?
Taipei. Yeah.
And we're getting a ton of scrimmages between MLB teams and countries today and tomorrow, which will be cool.
I think the U.S. takes on the Giants today, if I'm not mistaken. Tony Vitello's Giants.
Yes.
So,
wow.
There you go.
Tony Vitello.
A little Tennessee connection there. That'll be fun to watch. I tried to catch a little bit of the Pat McAfee show. He had on a bunch of the WBC roster, had on Cal Raleigh, had on Paul Skeens, Bryce Harper, Aaron Judge,
Clayton Kershaw. I saw that.
Yeah. So I was intrigued about that. Again, bringing a little awareness to baseball. Love that. I know a lot of people are not the biggest baseball fans, but, there's a collective around here that it's, baseball oriented. So I think this WBC is going to be a lot of fun to watch. Looking at the Dominican Republic's roster, they are pretty loaded. I mean, yikes.
They host my Detroit Tigers today.
Oh boy.
In Santo Domingo. Lots of scrimmage. Like the Blue Jays play Canada today. Brazil, who is the first U.S. opponent, they play the Athletics today. Italy playing the Cubs. So lots of big games going on over the next couple of days as we prepare for the World Baseball Classic. I'm sure you saw the Tarek Skubal 55 pitches against
disgusting
against Great Britain.
Can we make? I saw a comparison online, and I'll bring it up now. It's like saying Connor Hellebuck played against Latvia and only played the first period. That's exactly what this is.
Yeah.
This is disgusting. Can he not just play the game we need him to play? And that's either against the DR or Japan in the final.
Yeah, I get it. Oh, I totally get it. A lot of money on the table for Tarek Skubal if he gets hurt, though. That's the one thing. If this was last year or next year, like let's say next year, Tarek Skubal signs that 10-year, $500 million extension with somebody, not the Tigers, because they won't pay that much. He would probably go out there and pitch 2 games. I just think he's getting advice, and it's probably good advice for his long-term career of like, hey, I know you want to pitch for your country. Don't overdo it when you're in a contract year and you've got generational wealth staring you in the face.
Yeah, he had an interview with ESPN, I think, while the Tigers were playing their spring training game yesterday, and it was posted online, and I watched it, and he was like, yeah, I'm in agreement with, my agency company, my agent itself. I'm just like, Scott Boras, why? Why do you want to be this way?
Of the people who hurt baseball the most, I think Scott Boras has to be up there.
You make baseball horrible to watch because of this. And I'm not trying to be mean about it, but at the same time, like, it's baseball. You love the sport. Go out there and play for the passion. I get there's money on the table, and I get Paul Skeens is under some form of a contract where he doesn't have to wait or anything like that. But that man wants to play for his country. If you were a pitcher and you were on this roster and you're only going to play 55 pitches, or you're only going to be in there for 55 pitches, don't be on the roster. You're taking up a roster spot.
With Paul Skeens, he still has 3 or 4 years of team control before he can hit free agency. So even if he got Tommy John, like, knock on wood, obviously worst case scenario, but let's say he blows out his elbow in the World Baseball Classic and needs Tommy John. He still is going to have years to reprove his value and prove he's healthy before he hits free agency. If Tarek Skubal does the same thing in the World Baseball Classic, is anybody going to give a 10-year contract to a 30-year-old coming off Tommy John?
Probably not. And by the way, have you seen Tarek Skubal's figure lately? He's a little bit of a keg belly.
A big man.
But what's going on there?
Hey, I don't care. If he's still throwing 101, he can put on all the beer gut he wants.
Okay, interesting. I mean, they still got Logan Webb on the lineup there for the pitching staff, which
They
is
still
fine.
have good players, but obviously you wish that you could run out Skeens and Scooble like a true 1-2 and literally just have them run rough shot through the entire world.
Yeah.
But obviously there's money involved here, and money is always going to win out. So excited for the World Baseball Classic to start tomorrow, and then the U.S. starts their run on Friday.
Correct.
So excited for that over the weekend. Today is the franchise tag deadline. 3:00 Central Time. Teams have to get their transition and franchise tags in. So we will talk about that later on. Will it be just Pickens and Pitts? Will there be more to come? What are the Colts going to do? We will keep an eye on that throughout the show, and we will talk about it later on. But today is the day. 3 weeks ago, we as a group, me, Dr. Crane, Parker Kelly, we went through and we simulated the Titans offseason. We tried to predict what would go on, see how much better we could make this roster in one offseason with the resources the Titans have. Now we are going to do a simulation 2.0, but we split it up. We've all done these on our own. We're going to see what similarities there are, what differences there are, and who ends up putting together the best roster for 2026. We will do that coming up next. 615-737-1025. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly, next man up here on 1025 The Game. Next man up, 1025 The Game. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly with you on your Tuesday morning, and we are about to do our Titans offseason simulation 2.0. But before we do that, let's go to our phone lines driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Kenny the mailman is called in. Kenny, thanks for calling. Good morning.
Hello, good friend. Would it bother you if I take a minute to brag on you?
Go ahead.
All right. One of the things I love to do, I work weekends. Saturday's a long day. I love listening to long form interviews more than just the 2 or 3 minutes. You really don't get to know people that way. But I listened to Chase McCabe interview you Saturday, and I really, really enjoyed it. People see, announcers where they are now, but they have no idea the junior high school girls soccer games you had to call, working overnight, just everything that goes into it. And I just want to let you know I appreciated that interview.
Well, thank you, Kenny. That was really fun talking with Chase for an hour on one-on-one with Greg Pogue. So that was really cool. I thought it was fun. Chase and I, got through everything with Vandy and the show, and so it was a lot of fun. Thanks for listening, Kenny.
I always ask famous musicians or actors or sports figures this question. I'm going to ask you, not counting the free things you had to do, what is the least amount you were paid to do a job? And everyone I've asked laughs about that because it's funny thinking back and they enjoy it, but at the time it's not funny. So I wanted to ask you that. And second, I wanted to really brag on the Vanderbilt women because everybody knows they're having a great season, but to win in Knoxville for only the second time ever in Thompson-Boling Arena, when you put up numbers like that, that is so, so neat to remember. So I was stuck in traffic to Murfreesboro Sunday, and I did get to hear just about the whole game from you. But, yeah, think about that question. What's the least amount you got? Hey, appreciate you. Y'all have a good day.
Thank you for the call, Kenny. Always great to hear from you. Least I've ever been paid, I'm trying to think. I guess if I was to, go over the span of a large amount of time.
Free.
No, well, yeah, he said outside of free stuff.
Outside of free.
The summers I did summer league baseball, I got a stipend at the end of the season, but it was $1,000, which is like a good amount of money.
Good money.
But I called like 80 games. So if you want to go through game by game and how much work and travel went into it, I'd say that's probably it. But anyway, I'm trying to think of any other ones. Usually people, they're people take care of you as best as they can. That's all I'll say. But yes, the Vandy win on Sunday was great up there in Knoxville, and just the second time ever Vandy's gone into that building and won. So that was really cool, and excited for the SEC tournament coming up this weekend. All right, let's get into our simulation. I may just preface it here and set things up, and then we'll let Nick Frazier go through everything in the next segment. I want to give everybody their fair time to go through their offseason here because it is a lot. So if you listened to us 3 weeks ago, we went to the Stick to the Model simulator online, and you can find this sticktothemodel.com. It's the Be a GM mode, and you can go through and you can simulate the entire offseason. So this is cap management. You can make cuts. You can extend players. You can trade players. You can restructure contracts. You can go through all of free agency. All of the free agents are there. It's not exactly perfect with some of the logic in here. Some of the trade logic isn't great. Some of the free agent logic, it's you don't have to go through bidding wars. The new feature, I don't know if you noticed, it does tell you what other teams are bidding and what their offer is. So I guess that's something where it's all right, you have to beat their offer for them to sign with you. So it's not perfect, but you get to go through free agency. You get to go through the draft. We did a full simulation 3 weeks ago. Some of the big moves we made, we brought Kenneth Walker in. We brought Alante Taylor in. What else did we do? We re-signed Chigakonkwo. David Bailey was our first round pick.
Jeff Okuda.
Yeah, that filled out our cornerback room. We brought Kevin Byard back.
That's right.
We did. What else? David Bailey, Chris Bell was our second round pick. So we went through. I think there were a couple of things we liked about the way it turned out, a couple of things we didn't like about the way it turned out. Specifically, I think we wish we did more at wide receiver. Also, this was done before some of the big moves that happened of cutting Lloyd Cushenberry, opens up a hole at center. You trade Tavondre Sweat, and yeah, that adds a body for you on the edge with Jermaine Johnson. but now you have to fill that hole on the inside of the line. So very interesting stuff. Today, we are going to go through one at a time. We're going to go through all of our simulation, what we did. I thought this was a fun exercise. Without giving up too much, I think you learn a lot about everything that goes into building a roster while you're doing this, because there were so many times where I'm like, oh man, I got to go back. I messed this up and I've got to figure this out. There's a lot of things that happened that maybe surface level you weren't thinking of, but as you got deeper into it, there's a lot that goes into this.
A lot. I mean, there was times where I caught myself in the middle of the draft. I was like, why did I not re-sign this guy? Why did I not go grab this guy in free agency? I'm like, all right, I have a hole here now in the draft room. I got to figure this out. Again, you're right. Yeah. I mean, if I, everybody jokes, I'd love to be a GM, whatever. I don't know. After just doing a little simulation here, I might be overthinking it, but nah, I'll pass.
Right. It's one of those things where if I had sat down and mapped out a whole plan before I jumped in here, I think I would have been a little bit better.
Yeah, I didn't do that either.
But right. So I just opened it up and I was like, all right, let's just go and see what happens. And you get into it and you're like, man, this is there's first off, there's more holes than maybe I initially thought. And also, there's less money than I initially thought, I think was a big thing for me. I was talking with Corey a couple weeks ago when the whole Tua trade thing was going on, of like, should the Titans trade for Tua and try and buy a draft pick? I'm going to change my tune on that now, because I thought that you could do that and still go with your full plan in free agency. Going through this, at least based on the cap prices they have for these free agents and how much cap space the Titans had, it may not be as possible as I thought. So we're going to go through all of these. Dr. Crane is going to lead us off coming up next. He's going to go through everything he did. I will go second. Parker will go third. We're going to see who comes up with the best offseason for the Titans. And I think, honestly, it may not be as much about who's the best, but what ideas can we put together and maybe make a better team as a group than we did separately? 615-737-1025 is the phone number if you want to text or call. Our phone line's driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Tonight, Vanderbilt men's basketball takes on Ole Miss with an 8 o'clock tip-off, and the pregame show starts at 7:30 on 94.9 The Fan. Coverage is presented by Gary Force Acura. We will start our offseason simulation on the other side. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly, next man up, 102.5 The Game. Next man up, 1025, The Game. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly with you. It is now time for our offseason simulation 2.0 for the Titans. Justin from Greenbrier texted in, I hope listeners find this as interesting as I do and not akin to people reading off their March Madness brackets. I did worry about that with this, but I think we're going to do it in a way that people will find interesting, especially with free agency starting in just 6 days. So we went through the whole offseason, managed the cap. We're each going to go through some of the big moves we made and kind of how the roster turned out. Nick Frazier, you're leading us off, Dr. Crane.
First order of business was Pete Skoronsky. Extended that guy. You got to, right? And now it didn't have that weird thing where you only can give 100,000.
Right. I noticed that last night too.
So it fixed that. I put him on a 5-year deal. 6 years total, including this one. So
okay.
$50 million total.
Gotcha.
So I feel like that was a valid option for that. Trade away Calvin Ridley. Obviously the Devondre Sweat thing for sure. And Snead was cut, which was phenomenal. And in return for Ridley, I got 92 and 133.
Okay.
So that's a third and a fourth, I believe. So
yeah.
A good thing to have.
I stayed away from the trades that were offered because I just don't know what the value for Calvin Ridley would be. I did trade Will Levis again. But anyway.
It's a valid option.
So Ridley's gone. Did you cut Tony Pollard? Did you keep him?
I kept him this time. Okay. Yeah, funny enough. And then a few small pieces, but the 3 big offseason signings on this simulation I have is Wan'Dale Robinson to a 4-year deal, $23.7 million a year. Tyler Lindenbaum, 4-year deal. I thought that was something interesting there. And then I've been hooked on Tariq Woolen. The guy's still exploring the free agent market. He's a young enough. He's 27. Signed him to a 3-year deal there. So at 30, you can kind of offload the books at that point. All these I did like a flat deal. I didn't do a front loaded or back loaded.
Yeah,
because I knew if I front loaded some of them, it would just make the cap go completely negative.
Right.
So if I just back loaded it, it would kind of screw the future up for the franchise. So I kept it at a flat rate. And then some. Then I get to the draft pick. Excuse me. It's going to be all right. I'm going to preface it this way: no Ruben Bain on my draft.
Okay,
which is unfortunate.
Was he there at 4?
He wasn't. He was gone at 2.
He went 2 for me too.
Yeah.
I think that again, this is a really fun system to work with. It's not perfect, so
right.
You have to take it with a grain of salt a little bit.
So I went with Denzel Boston.
At 4?
No, I ended up trading back because Kansas City. Yeah, sorry. Let me preface
I about had a heart attack.
Kansas City traded the 4th overall pick, for 9 and 40. So I was like, okay, first round pick and a 2nd round pick. I'm fine with that.
So you still went Denzel Boston at 9?
He was the highest one on the board.
Really? So
yeah, out of the wide receivers,
Lemon, Tate, and Tyson were all gone at that point.
Yeah.
Wow. All of the pass rushers were gone?
Well, I was going to go for Mincidor from Miami.
Okay.
And his projected number, I thought I could get away with it in the 2nd round.
Gotcha.
And he went 2 picks ahead of my 2nd round pick.
Okay.
So that's what I was trying. It was a tough gamble.
Hey, Denzel Boston is a 1st round pick. So that's maybe a little high for him, but we don't know. Who'd you go with at 35?
At 35, because Mincidor was gone,
right.
I went with Mason Thomas. Edge rusher out of Oklahoma.
R. Mason Thomas.
Yeah, R. Mason, excuse me. R. Mason Thomas.
Did you hear the reasoning for his name?
No.
Quick tangent here. Apparently, his family, it's very typical to have R names. Oh. And so all of his siblings and uncles and aunts all had R names, but his mom didn't want him to have an R name, but felt bad about changing the family dynamics. So she just named him Mason, but put an R in front. So R. Mason Thomas.
Hey,
doesn't stand for anything.
That's okay. It keeps the family tradition alive. So R. Mason Thomas, went it 2nd round.
I like that pick.
And then obviously I got the 40th overall pick from Kansas City.
Right.
So I went with the inside linebacker, Anthony Hill Jr. Out of Texas.
I like that. I really do like him.
Yeah.
He was the game against Vandy last year. He was blowing things up. Mm-hmm. So I like that pick.
Ended up not retaining Chigga, so which leaves a little gap at that tight end position. So in the 3rd round, ended up grabbing, let's just put it this way, Eli Stowers.
See, at that pick,
66.
Yeah, Stowers was on the board for me too, and I'll go through what I did later, but it was intriguing. I've got to say it was, especially after what he did at the combine. I don't think he makes it to the 3rd round.
Yeah,
but if he was, it would be intriguing for sure.
Again, simulation. If it's there, I'm going to take that opportunity.
No, I think you did a good job of if the simulation lets you do it, do it. I tried in my mind to all right, that's not realistic. I'm not going to do it.
Yeah.
But No, I like that. I think Boston's a little bit of a stretch,
I
but
know.
I really like Thomas. I really like Hill, and I really like Stowers, especially if you didn't bring back Chigakonkwo.
Yeah, the reason why I just picked Denzel Boston at that point, one, because of the value there was not much value there.
Right.
And then two, he's 6'2". Like, that's a huge size. Use him in the red zone, could be a valuable asset there. I try to stay on the defensive side of the ball for this draft because Sal's a defensive guy.
Yeah.
And he usually did that with those New York drafts, minus, when Rodgers tagged along and then that roster structure kind of changed a little bit for the draft. But following Stowers, went with an interior defensive lineman, Grayson Halton out of Oklahoma. So to kind of pair him with R. Mason Thomas.
Gotcha.
Just kind of keep that chemistry going, continuity. Yeah. And then went with, in the fourth round there, Traden Stukes out of Arizona, cornerback. Okay. It's kind of where you get into the weeds of everything. Right. One pick I do like out of the fourth round was Demetrius Crownover out of A&M. I've heard some good things about him. Pretty good offensive tackle. So that's why I went there. And the rest of them, Zane Durant out of Penn State, defensive lineman, just for depth purposes. And then I did take up Indiana running back Roman Hemby. He had a pretty good run.
Yeah. He was at Maryland before that, I want to say.
Yeah. So, again, that's just depth piece because – you're not going to really get a perennial running back late in those rounds.
Yeah.
And if you're going to run it back again in this simulation for me with Tony Pollard, just another year of that. See what you can do with that, because in years past with the Titans offensive roster structure, you've seen them have running backs that have been in that second to third string realm.
Yeah.
Don't really make it to the top tier. So it's more about depth than anything at that point. Albert Regis out of A&M, another continuity pick for me. Getting another guy to A&M, defensive lineman, SEC, so forth. And then Aaron Graves out of Iowa, which is another defensive lineman. So.
Love it. Love it. All right. So going through the depth chart here quickly with you, what'd you do at backup quarterback?
Funny enough, I kept Will Levis.
Okay. Oh, right. I guess, you could have done that.
Yeah, I kept Will Levis. I don't see anything in the draft that would really supplement that. Free agency, I probably could have grabbed something, but still was left with $53 million extra in money. Probably still can do something with that, but again,
I came in a lot lower than that. Running back, you kept Pollard, kept Spears, and then you got the Roman Hemby in the draft. So I like that room,
and kept Julius Chestnut as well.
And Julius Chestnut. So that you feel pretty good about that group. Wide receiver, Wan'Dale Robinson was your big free agent signing, and then Denzel Boston in the first round. Did you add any other receivers?
Kept Bryce Oliver for another year.
Yep, I did that as well.
And obviously, you have Ellick and Chimdike still there.
Mason Kinsey, good top five.
Yeah, Mason Kinsey was still on the roster, so I just didn't touch it. And then at tight end is Gunnar Helm, David Martin Robinson, Joel Wilson, and then Eli Stowers. So
yeah, the depth chart. I didn't want to tweet these out because the depth chart's so weird. Cedric Gray and James Williams have just disappeared from here again, along with Kevin Winston's back this time, and so is Femi, who weren't on it the last time. So weird. Offensive line, I really like the way your offensive line ended up. Actually, did you bring back Zeitler?
I did not.
What'd you do at right guard? Do you go with Jackson Slater?
Yeah.
Okay.
On this depth chart again, it has them flip-flopped. Has Slater at center and Lindenbaum at right guard.
Right, but yeah,
flip-flop that.
I see. I don't hate that. I think they're going to let us know how they feel about Slater with what they do. And Paul Kuharsky did report over the weekend that the Titans are interested in bringing Zeitler back. But a front five of Moore, Skoronski, Linderbaum, man, not Dan Moore as much, but Skoronski and Linderbaum next to each other, then Jackson Slater, J.C. Latham. I like that. And then you said you added a depth tackle later in the draft as well.
Right.
Defensive side of the ball, R. Mason Thomas slots in at one of your edges, Jermaine Johnson on the other, and then Jeffrey Simmons. And then you said you drafted Georgia defensive tackle?
It was a A&M
defensive tackle.
Yeah, Albert Regis, and then another one, Aaron Graves from Iowa. And then Zane Durant out of Penn State. So Grayson Halton out of Oklahoma.
Love it.
4 defensive tackles. Just looked at the depth chart coming into the draft. It was pretty depleted. There was really no depth there.
Yeah.
Because I didn't retain, a certain amount of people. So I just wanted to grab 4 of them late in the draft. Again, those are flyers. Those are bodies. We saw what Robert Saleh did this past season with San Francisco, just grabbing bodies off the practice squad and free agent rosters there. If he is a defensive guru like people think he is, and he's a player's coach, I think he can do some stuff with some of these late rounders.
And then secondary, you brought in Tariq Woolen at cornerback, drafted
Traden Stukes out of Arizona.
Yes. And then anything at safety?
Nothing at safety. Looking back on it, and I did this Sunday, and I forgot to add it in this draft. just go grab Kevin Byard.
Yeah, I did again. That was my last move I made, I want to say, is I got to the end and I still had a little bit of cap space left, and I was like, gotta bring the mayor back. He's got to come back.
And look, with $53 million in this, simulation, you can definitely bring a guy like Kevin Byard back on a friendly deal for him or a friendly deal for the team. I mean, he is a glue guy when it comes to stuff like this.
See, you have a lot of money left over, which probably is the smart thing for the future of this franchise. We're going to find out when we come back. I did not leave a whole lot of money. $11.7 million is all I have left. So I spent a lot. I'm going to go through my simulation coming up next. Overall, I like yours, Dr. Crane. The one move I would question is Denzel Boston at 9. But I like the trade out. I think I would have just at 9, maybe you take, like, if Caleb Downs was there or Sonny Styles. Like, I think there may have been a better player at 9, but outside of that, I think it was a good simulation.
I mean, Jeremiah Love was there. I didn't want to take it.
I would have taken Love at 9 over Boston. Yep.
I don't know. Look, if you're just going to run it back again with Pollard, I get Jeremiah Love is a generational talent. I get that. I just don't see value in that running back room right now.
Yeah.
Like, to go grab in the draft.
No, it's fair. And
that might just be being stubborn.
We had this whole conversation yesterday of like, taking a running back at 4 is too high in just philosophically, but you have to look at the actual draft class and say, where are you getting the most value? And there is a chance that a running back could be the most valuable pick you could take there if you don't believe the guys at the more valuable positions are elite talents. So Titans are going to have to sort that out. 615-737-1025 is the phone number if you want to text or call. Our phone lines driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. I will give my simulation when we come back. I spent a lot of money. There are some things I wish I did differently, but overall, I think it went well. We'll do it next. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly, next man up, 102.5 The Game. Next man up, 1025, the game, Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly. We are simulating the Titans offseason. We did one of these all together 3 weeks ago. We're going separate now. Nick Frazier just went through some of the big moves, bringing in Tariq Woolen, Tyler Linderbaum, Wan'Dale Robinson, drafted Denzel Boston, and R. Mason Thomas as his 2 top picks after a trade down. So let's go through mine. I spent a lot of money. I in fact was going through the cuts, and of course I did cut L'Jarius Sneed. I did cut Tony Pollard, and I initially did not cut Calvin Ridley because I remembered, last time we thought we wish we had done more at wide receiver. I had to go back and cut him later because I needed more money. So I did cut Calvin Ridley in the end. Extended Jeffrey Simmons, extended Peter Skoronski. So that was my cap management. I traded Will Levis to the Rams. Same exact trade we did last time. I figured that was fair. For pick 167, Will Levis goes to the Rams to be their backup. And I did bring back Chig and Kevin Zeitler. Paul Kowarski reporting that those are priorities for the Titans. I'm going to believe him. So I brought back Chig on a 2-year deal, Kevin Zeitler on a 1-year deal. Other re-signings, brought back Bryce Oliver, Joey Sly, Johnny Hecker, Morgan Cox, Corey Levin. So there you go. All of those players are back. But now I'll go through some of the big moves I made in free agency. First move I made, immediately looked his name up, and we've gotten some texters about it. Trevor was asking if you signed John Franklin Myers. 8566 said he heard it on the show. Matthew Berry apparently put it in his article that John Franklin Myers is going to Tennessee. So I went out and signed John Franklin Myers. There you go. He is the running mate next to Jeffrey Simmons in the interior of the line. That was my first move. Second move is bring back Tyrod Taylor again. So he is the backup quarterback for the Titans. And my big money moves, Wan'Dale Robinson as well. I also went out and got him. The more we see smoke for that, and it feels like there's a new article coming out every single day of Titans. If Alec Pierce doesn't hit the open market, the Titans are going to be the front runners for Wan'Dale Robinson. So I'm going to choose to believe it. Wan'Dale Robinson, 4-year deal, $23.7 million a year. Basically gave him Calvin Ridley's contract 2 years later.
Yeah, makes sense.
Kenneth Walker, I brought him back again. I don't know if he's going to hit the open market. We'll find out probably in the next 6 hours, 5 hours, if he's going to be tagged. The Seahawks could still negotiate a deal even if they don't tag him. But Kenneth Walker, 4 years, $36 million. I brought him in. A couple other moves. Cade Mays is the new center. I thought about Linderbaum. I did, but he was going to cost a lot more money. I brought in Cade Mays on a 3-year deal. Alontae Taylor at cornerback, and I did bring Kevin Byard back. So there you go. Those were my big moves for the Titans. I also signed Tyquan Thornton to a 1-year, $3 million deal. I thought, I wanted to add one more body to the wide receiver room. He's a burner. I was like, he can be our 5th or 6th wide receiver this year.
He had some decent run-ins with Kansas City.
Right. He's been okay. So I ended up getting him as he's the Van Jefferson of this year, I guess I would say. So those were my big free agent moves. I spent a lot of money. I got down to $12 million in cap space, which I think that is including the draft, but I also didn't front load or back load anything like you said. They can make these contracts all work. It's not like I spent an insane amount of money, but I did spend a lot. AJ Epinesa, I also didn't mention. I brought him in too. To be on the other edge as kind of like a lead into Femi, right? Like you're going to have I guess this changed when I made my draft picks, but you're going to have Jermaine Johnson and AJ Epinesa be your starters on the edge, and then you bring the young guys through. And in the draft, I took David Bailey again at number 4. He got there to 4. I think Bailey or Reese, if they're there at 4, I think that's going to be the pick for the Titans. I think you look at it and you say those are high-level pass rushers who you can bring in and you hope to develop into 12 to 15 sack-a-year guys. So I went with David Bailey. If David Bailey had gone 2 instead of Reuben Bain, I probably would have gone Jeremiah Love.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. So you're in on the.
I'm not in on it completely, but if that's the way the board falls and it goes Mendoza, Bailey, Reese in some order, I just don't know if anybody else makes sense. Like Ruben Bain, the arms, I said yesterday, I don't think you can take him at 4.
Really?
Yeah, the arm length and all of the context that's coming out, I don't think you can take him at 4.
Dude's a player. I don't care
He
what anybody
is,
says.
and maybe I'll look stupid if Robert Saleh loves him and says, I don't care, he's going to fit in my defense, and they go and take him. Maybe I'll look stupid, and I can look back and say, I think he's going to be a really good player. I do. I just don't know if he's a top 5 pick worthy player. And so I would take Jeremiah Love over Ruben Bain at number 4.
Interesting.
But I would prefer to take Bailey or Reese because I think pass rush, if you're picking in the top 4, you want to get a premium
switching
position.
up on us, Frazier. That's
I
what he's
know.
doing. He's switching up.
Just make my jaw drop all the way to the floor here, Jake.
I'm backing it up though. Like the combine numbers that came out and all of the context of like sub 31-inch arms. No one has ever had a 10-sack season. Those guys typically don't go in the top 100, let alone the top 10. Like I can't take him at 4. I went with David Bailey. I like the pick for Bailey. He's more of your prototypical pass rusher. The bend and flexibility, that's a little concerning, the change of direction stuff. But I think Robert Saleh will look at it and say, this is a guy with the right size, the right length. He had 15 sacks in college. We can figure out the other stuff that he needs to work on to become an elite pass rusher at the NFL level.
Yeah, I mean, again, you just mentioned the 15 sacks. He had a lot of high production with Texas Tech this past season. So,
Yep.
I mean, kudos to that. But is Mel Kiper talking to you on the phone or something? Like, what's going on here, Jake? I don't know if I like
on the
this.
Ruben Bain stuff.
Yeah, what?
It's tough because I watch him in the college football playoff and I say that is a star waiting to happen. But you can't just ignore everything that has happened with guys who have short arms at the NFL level and say, no, he's the exception. We're going to take him 4th overall. I don't think you can bet on a guy being the lone exception and saying, yeah, he's going to be the 4th overall pick.
So say if the Titans realistically, before we get back to your simulation, say the Titans in a roundabout way were to trade out of 4, maybe drop back a little bit and then get Bain, you're okay with that?
100%. If they traded back, I think you feel a lot better about taking some of these guys who have positional value questions, right? So I think that's my ideal scenario is the Titans trade out of 4, and then you end up with Bain, Love, Styles, Downs. Like, give me any of those 4 guys if you trade back. At 4, though, I struggled to take any of them. I think the one I would take out of them would be Jeremiah Love, but I wouldn't feel great about it at number 4. So I took David Bailey. He was sitting there for me. I said, if Bailey's sitting there at 4, I think that's the pick. At 35, I went with Chris Brazzell. After he ran a 4.37 this week, sign me up. I don't even know if he gets to 35, but give me Chris Brazzell. I love it. Then in the 3rd round, I traded back. I didn't have anybody I really loved at 66 and moved back to 83 and picked up another 4th round pick and took Jake Slaughter, the center out of Florida. I know I signed Cade Mays, but it can't hurt to have another high-level interior offensive lineman there with Zeitler being on a 1-year deal. Mays, who knows if he's going to end up being your long-term solution at center. So I went with Slaughter to kind of be that guy in waiting for the Titans. Then I loved my day 3. The 4th and 5th rounds, at least. I took Dalen Everett, the cornerback out of Georgia. I took Mike Washington, who just ran the 4.33, the running back from Arkansas. Sam Roush, the tight end from Stanford, who me and Parker talked about a little bit yesterday. And Takario Davis, the cornerback out of Washington. So those were my highlights from day 3. The team, when I look at it, I like the way the offense sets up. Like, I think I filled out all of the needs that needed to be there, and maybe a little bit more on the offensive side. Defensively, I think the front 7 looks good. I wish I did more at cornerback this time because I brought in Alontae Taylor. I took the 2 day 3 corners in Everett and Davis. But outside of that, it's just Darrell Baker and Michael Robinson and Marcus Harris. I wish I had added one more free agent body at cornerback. But outside of that, I like the way the team turned out.
Yeah, I mean, that sounds really good for the point of compared to mine just is all over the place. But yeah, yours seems very logical and to the point. And again, don't worry about the cap. Jake. Just don't worry about it. Like money comes and goes. For you, it's all good.
615-737-1025 is the phone number. Keegan says, I'm with Dr. Crane. I do not like hearing Jake switch up in real time. Hurts my ears to hear him say Bane's not the pick. Jake's over here saying no to Ruben Bain, and he's taking Chris Brazel. What have they done to you? I like Ruben Bain as a player. I really do. I just think 4 is too high. Like, I wouldn't take Chris Brazel at 4. I would run to the podium and take Ruben Bain at 35. Like, it's just too high to take a guy who would have to be the unicorn, have to be the complete outlier of what we know about guys with those measurables. I like Ruben Bain. I can't take him at 4.
Look, I get the concern around a Ruben Bain with the arm length, and if you were to play him at edge, like the separation between the left tackle or right tackle in the NFL is completely different because those guys are behemoths of men. And I get all that, but again, if that guy's got some dog in him and he can go after the quarterback and somehow create separation and stunts, maybe stunting, I mean that works as well. And to Keegan's point, Keegan, we don't have any brainwashing, I guess, medicine here or a facility. It's nowhere on this premise. So I don't know where Jake's getting this Kuiper mentality.
I'm not trying to switch up. I'm just, my mind has been changed by new information. And I loved Ruben Bain. He was my guy. But seeing all, and we listened to a Daniel Jeremiah clip yesterday. Maybe we can play this later if we get back to it, of Daniel Jeremiah and Charles Davis talking about why it matters with Ruben Bain. And I just, 4th overall is too high for me. If you trade back and you take him, sign me up in a heartbeat. If you can add more value and get a 2nd round pick or get an extra 1st if you move back far enough and Bain slips to you, run the pick in. You can't do it at 4, in my mind. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. We've got one more simulation to go through. Parker is going to let us know what he would do if he was Mike Borgonzi. We will do that next. Much more to come on the show. We'll talk Preds. We'll talk college basketball. And, of course, franchise tag deadline day is today, coming up at 3 p.m. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly, next man up, 102.5 The Game. Next man up, 102.5 The Game. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly with you on your Tuesday morning, broadcasting live from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. We are continuing our NFL offseason simulations for the Tennessee Titans, and we've gone through Dr. Crane and mine. Some similarities in what we've done. Both brought in Wan'Dale Robinson, both made upgrades at center, but a lot of differences in the way we attack the draft and free agency. So let's hear what Parker Kelly has to say. Parker, take us through some of the highlights of what you would do if you were in Mike Borgonzi's chair.
So I just finished the draft, and I'm waiting for it to end. I'm in the 7th round.
Oh, okay. Oh, so you're doing this like live and right before.
I just finished because I did no prep prior to coming into the show. So it is. Hold on, just give me 1 second.
All right, we will get Parker's in a second. While we have a second here, the SEC Women's Basketball Awards were just announced. Vanderbilt, Player of the Year, Freshman of the Year, Coach of the Year. Michaela Blakes is the SEC Player of the Year. Aubrey Galvin is the SEC Freshman of the Year. Shea Ralph is the SEC Coach of the Year. So congratulations to all of them. Awesome stuff to see them honored. Michaela should be the National Player of the Year. I think Aubrey Galvin could be the National Freshman of the Year, and I think Shea Ralph could be the National Coach of the Year, too.
Yeah, I mean, Aubrey Galvin, the way she was throwing some assists on Sunday against Tennessee, it was crazy.
Also scored 24 points, too.
Yeah, I mean, unreal. And then the point of Michaela Blake's averaging, 30.5 points
in SEC
play.
Yeah.
That is unreal. I mean, again, that is a generational talent you have at Vanderbilt.
Yes. So cool to see the SEC coaches. They have given Vandy 3 of their major awards, and again, coaches can't vote for players or their own on their own team. So Michaela Blakes, Aubrey Galvin, Shea Ralph, all the top of their respective awards: Player of the Year, Freshman of the Year, Coach of the Year. We'll see what they can do on a national level as well. Parker, are you ready to go?
I'm ready.
All right,
I'm ready. I got my summary ready to go, and here are the highlights. So, like you, Jake, I spent a lot of money. I spent $70 million.
Okay.
So the cuts I made: L'Jarius Sneed, gone, saves about $12 million.
Yep.
Calvin Ridley, cut him post June 1st, which saves me actually a little bit more money, $21.8 million. So I'm not going to do math on the air. I think that's around 31. I restructured Dan Moore's deal.
Okay.
So instead of him getting $26.4 million this year, I did a flat fee where he will be getting 15.7 throughout the remainder of his deal. That saves me $10.7 million.
Okay.
So I added more money. Extensions. Peter Skoronski obviously had to get that done, a 3-year extension for him. I made some trades, and these trades are going to be pretty good, I think. With LA, I traded Will Levis. I believe that is the best spot for Will Levis, working with Sean McVay. They gave me a 3rd-round pick for Will Levis.
Oh, wow.
So I got a 3rd-round pick for Will Levis, and then here's where it gets really interesting. The Kansas City Chiefs, I sent Tony Pollard. I sent Tony Pollard in a 3rd-round pick in exchange for Creed Humphrey.
Oh.
So if you think about it, I get Creed Humphrey. I gave them a 3rd-round pick, but I got a 3rd-round pick in exchange for Levis.
Right.
So that cancels out.
So you traded Will
Tony
Levis
Pollard
and Tony
for Creed Humphrey.
That's good. Yeah.
So that is the 2 trades that I made. My signings, I brought back Chig on a 2-year deal. I brought back Kevin Zeitler on a 1-year deal. I brought back Jihad Ward on a 1-year deal. I brought back Sebastian Joseph Day on a 2-year deal.
Gotcha.
I needed some interior defensive linemen. Morgan Cox, Johnny Hecker, Joey Sly, all brought back. I brought back Corey Levin. And then in free agency, I went and I got Alec Pierce, the kind of the apple of my eye for a wide receiver, and Jawan Jennings. Now, I really wanted Alec Pierce and Wan'Dale Robinson, but that's very expensive because both are going to be asking for upwards of $20 million. Yeah. Jawan Jennings is a little bit less, so that's why I went that route. I got Breece Hall. I brought in our boy. After training Tony Pollard, I need a running back, and he's on the younger side, so I brought in Breece Hall. I still have Tajay Spears on the roster as well, to note. I brought in Greg Newsome and Alante Taylor for my corners, 2 dogs. Alante Taylor, VFL. Titans fans are very familiar with him.
Yeah.
Jimmy Garoppolo is going to be my backup quarterback. And I brought in Ben Barch, left tackle for the San Francisco 49ers. Now, I will say there's a little bias with this one because he's a former Division III football player. I'm a former Division III football player. We got to stick together.
Yeah, there you go.
Plus, I didn't have a lot of money left, so I needed a cheap swing tackle. My draft, David Bailey at number 4. He was still on the board. I don't know how. So Omar Cooper Jr., second round
Yeah, I
pick,
love
wide
that.
receiver from Indiana. I do have an inside track on this pick. Dalen Everett, the corner at Georgia. I have a buddy who coaches at Georgia. He's very high on Dalen Everett. So it was either him or Chandler Rivers from Duke. And Chandler Rivers tested really good at the combine, but I decided to go with Dalen Everett just because I know a little bit more about him.
Yep.
Katron Allen, running back from Penn State with the 4th overall pick. He was still on the board, and this is a little bit of a luxury, but at the same time, Katron Allen's a beast.
Yeah.
And just having some depth. By the way, Julius Chestnut will not be on the roster next year. So I needed some depth there. Zane Durant, defensive tackle. He's going to play a 3
You
tech.
guys both went with him.
For Penn State. Need some bodies. Need a lot of bodies on that defensive line. I went corner in the 5th round to Cario Davis from Washington. Josh Cuevas, our boy, Jake.
Yeah, we were
he's
talking
gonna
about
play
him yesterday.
He's going to play a little fullback for us. He can maybe play a little tight end,
Little
but
H-back.
primarily fullback out of Alabama. And then this is a little bit of a gamble, but in the 7th round, I decided to go with Taylon Green, the quarterback from Arkansas, just because I love the intangibles. Who knows if that's actually going to work out or not? Jimmy G is on a 1-year deal. So at worst, Jimmy G is gone, and then you groom Taylon Green to be your backup quarterback. I love the intangibles for him in the trade. So I went Taylon Green with the 7th round pick.
See, I don't hate it that he tested really well. And maybe he ends up being a quarterback. Maybe you can move him. I saw that his athletic traits were similar to like DK Metcalf. So I don't hate that pick, a flyer on Taylon Green in the 7th round. Why not?
It's a good pickup. I'm curious about your Dan Moore restructuring there.
Yeah, I was curious.
That was primarily to save money.
Well, so you save money this year, but it's not going to be a clean out next year if you cut
I know.
it.
Right.
I know. That's the thing. That's the only thing that I'm really worried about. But I just did it to save money because I knew I was going to spend a lot of it.
I like the way all three of us had similarities in the way we attack the offseason, but obviously differences. And it shows you there are a lot of different avenues that Mike Borgonzi can go down this offseason, given what he has at his disposal, cap space, the draft picks. It's going to be a very interesting March and April to see where this roster is 2 months from today, which, yes, you're going to add some more players throughout the summer here and there, but this is the season of player acquisition. Can the Titans upgrade this roster to be competitive next year? I think all three of us put together good rosters. Mike Borgonzi is going to have to go through what's actually feasible for him this year. Trevor on the text line says, what is the most you'd be willing to give Tyler Linderbaum? I'd be backing up the Brinks truck to land that dude. Top tier blue chip players at that position don't hit free agency very often. And I agree. I think there are only a few guys who are going to hit the market that you look at and say, not only is this an upgrade for us now, but this could be a starting player for us for 5 to 10 years. And I think Linderbaum is one of those guys. He's only 25 years old. I know the pass protection isn't elite for him. It's average to above average, but he is an elite run blocker, and he is one of the best young centers in the league. If he hits free agency, you have more ability to outspend everybody else. I would say that's one of those where you go try and win a bidding war. And even if on paper it looks like an overpay, those are the type of players, if they get to free agency, that you go overpay for.
Yeah, I mean, you look at some other teams in the NFL, like the Kansas City Chiefs. Obviously, last season was not the best, but in those core years where they had a solid offensive line, they got the best of the best. You look at Indianapolis a few years back when they had a true core offensive line. They spent money to keep those guys and retain them.
Yeah.
The Titans now have that opportunity, like you just alluded to there, Jake. I would say, I think it was north of $22 million is what Jeremy Fowler was saying.
Yeah.
So again, on my little simulation, I put 5 years, 23.7 or 24.
It's a lot of money. But
I'm okay with that.
Right. But you have the money to spend, and we'll see. I talking to TD last week, I asked him about Linderbaum after they cut Lloyd Cushenberry, and he said he didn't think that was something the Titans would be doing. But you don't know until he's actually out there on the market. I think the Ravens are going to do everything they can to keep him, except for the tag. They said they will not tag him, but I think they're going to do their best to get an extension before the legal tampering period opens next Monday. So that will be one to keep your eye on. 615-737-1025 is the phone number, our phone and text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. I did want to ask this question. I think I heard Robbie and Joe do this a while ago, but as we're going through this, I want to know from each of you and from everybody out there, who is your guy this offseason? This could be draft, this could be free agency, but like you're looking at this offseason and it's like, if the Titans are only going to get one player, I want it to be this guy. Who is your guy you're standing on the table for this offseason for the Titans? We'll do that coming up next. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. Our Tennessee Titans offseason coverage is brought to you by Tennessee Brewworks, the official craft beer of the football offseason coverage on ESPN 1025 The Game. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly, next man up, 1025 The Game. Today, Vanderbilt baseball takes on Central Arkansas at 4:30 p.m. You can catch all of the action on 1021 The Ville. Coverage is presented by Gary Force Acura. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly with you. We just wrapped up our second edition of Titans offseason simulations. I don't know if I could pick one that I liked the most out of this. Honestly, I really did like Parker's simulation. I thought you filled a lot of needs with what you did. So I like the way that Parker's turned out. Again, we probably did more than the Titans actually will, because in these simulations, you're not competing really against anybody else. Like, it shows you the top offer. It's like, all right, the Commanders are offering Alontae Taylor $9.1 million per year. It's like, all right, well, I'll offer him 9.3 and that'll get the deal done. So obviously the Titans are going to have more competition for these players, but I think it shows you the work that can be done to improve this offer, this roster in just one off season. But I asked the question heading into the break. If you had to pick one player, free agent, draft, that you say that guy needs to be on the Titans roster this upcoming season, who would it be? Dr. Crane, do you have anybody that comes to the top of your mind?
I'm going to stay consistent with this one. Tariq Woolen. Just fill out that secondary. If that's one guy that you know he can be a staple point going forward, he's what, 28, 27, sign him to a 2-3 year deal. Hopefully it doesn't break the bank. But again, that fills a void where you need that extra help on the back end. And again, you also have the draft to help out with all that. But again, that's one player that's a veteran that's seen the minutes, that's seen the snaps, that can get you that over the hump mentality.
I like it. I was actually going to stick with cornerback in free agency too. I think it's Alontae Taylor. Like the Titans, that is the position that they need the most capable bodies in. Getting Jermaine Johnson on the edge, I think, helps you out a lot in making it feel like that's not just a pit of a position group right now with Femi sitting in there and Jalen Harrell, and that's it. You at least have a veteran presence who's been a Pro Bowler before. So I liked what they did there. Wide receiver, you've got the young guys. I think you need to invest high quality resources in edge and wide receiver. You need to invest high volume resources in the cornerback room. And I think Alontae Taylor would be a good start there, partially just because of what he did in that game against the Titans with the Saints. Like, he kept popping off the screen to me. And I'm like, I would love to have that guy on the Titans. So I think Alontae Taylor's my answer. Parker, do you have a guy this offseason that you're standing on the table needs to be in two-tone blue?
Alec Pierce.
Okay, you're all in on Alec Pierce. And we're going to find out this afternoon what's going to happen with Alec Pierce. The Colts have said that they want to keep him here, whether that's via keep him in Indy, whether that's via extension or tag. But you gotta figure out Daniel Jones first. Like, that's your quarterback right now. You're going to trade Anthony Richardson. Like, you've got to figure out Daniel Jones first. That could end up playing into the Titans' hands at the end of this of like, hey, Alec Pierce might slip out to the market, and I think the Titans would be as aggressive as anybody to try and go get him.
Yeah, and like you mentioned earlier, Jake, the Titans kind of have that hierarchy over everybody else with the financial, cap space. They can go and offer whatever X amount of money you want for this guy. And again, you don't have to overspend, but again, you go grab those key pieces that can be, key assets to your roster. And that's simple as that. Going back to some of the other options out there, but Tariq Woolen, I think it's kind of funny. The 49ers are after him. Looking online, that's what a lot of 49ers fans and, people that, write about it and stuff, they're looking after Woolen. I think it'd be not a slap in the face, but it'd be good, like stick it to the man type thing for a Robert Saleh.
Yeah, I kind of like that.
That'd be kind of interesting.
And by the way, as soon as I signed Breece Hall, the Jets just tagged him. So,
oh man,
so unrealistic, not going to happen. But
well, that's what, like, doing this before all the news had come out. I think we're not going to get everything right, but yes, the Jets have tagged Breece Hall, franchise tag, not the transition tag. So he is going to stay in New York. Thought that he might be a good addition with what he can do as a rusher, a receiver, and obviously has connections with Robert Saleh, but he is staying with the New York Jets. Here's another note about the Alec Pierce situation. There is no momentum between the Colts and Daniel Jones on a long-term deal, which means a transition tag is now the expected outcome today per Ian Rappaport. So is Alec Pierce maybe more likely to hit free agency than we thought?
It's a possibility.
You can't use both, right? You can't use the franchise and the transition tag. So they're going to have to make a decision there one way or the other on Jones versus Pierce. And if they can't get an extension done with Pierce, he hits the open market. I have a hard time believing the Colts are going to be able to bid with teams like the Titans and the Raiders, who are going to be in search of his services.
Yeah, and I'm curious to get your thoughts on this, Jake and Parker. If you have, draft capital this year and next year, why would you not go try and find a wide receiver in either this draft or next draft and not worry about signing a guy like Alec Pierce, who again probably is going to be a wide receiver too.
Right. And that's the question is you're going to be overpaying for him. He is not going to give you like, let's look at the highest paid wide receivers right now. Because I think you have to look at this number and like the guys who get extensions at these numbers, they're the ones who are going to give you that type of production. So like average per year, T. Higgins is getting $28.7 million per year. I think that's probably around where Alec Pierce lands, somewhere between DJ Moore and T. Higgins. I don't know if you're going to get DJ Moore, T. Higgins levels of production from Alec Pierce, but on the open market, you're going to get paid more. That's just how it works. When you get out there to free agency, the amount of bidders drives up the number, and you're going to have to pay more. But I think with Alec Pierce, you believe you're getting more of a sure thing than you are in the draft. Like, yeah, it'd be great to say, well, we'll just draft a guy at the top of the second round, and that becomes our wide receiver one. You hope, but the draft is so unpredictable. You do need to have talented wide receivers in that room if that guy you draft doesn't turn out to be a superstar.
Yeah, that's fair. I don't know. I just see more value in a draft pick than a guy in Alec Pierce. I'm not high on the guy. And again, I'm probably wrong, obviously so, because I'm not a GM. I'm not any association with the NFL whatsoever. But I just don't see value in grabbing a guy like that if you're going to have to overpay for him. I look at the financial structure of this. Yes, they have a lot of money, but at the same time, go get other assets that you know can help you. Like to me, and we both agree on this, go grab a defensive guy in free agency that you know you'll get more cracks at the bat offensively.
Yeah.
And again, if that does lead to an Alec Pearson, sure. But I think what you have right now offensively as wide receiver weapons, it gets you by enough for this upcoming season.
And we'll see what they do with Calvin Ridley. Like that's obviously going to be a big part of it too. Does Calvin Ridley stick around? That's a veteran guy who maybe you feel like you don't need to invest a ton in free agency. I think it's one of those things where if the Titans feel like they can go and get somebody in free agency that is an upgrade, they'll cut Calvin Ridley. If not, then maybe he sticks around. Apparently the EAS system might have gone off. So people might have missed the news that we were saying. Breece Hall has been tagged by the New York Jets, if you missed that. So Breece Hall not going to hit free agency, franchise tag from the Jets. And then the reports around the Colts right now, Daniel Jones and Indy do not have any momentum towards a long-term deal, which means he is expected to be tagged. So there's a better chance than not maybe that Alec Pierce ends up hitting free agency if they can't get a long-term deal done with him.
Yeah. I mean, you know where I stand on it. I'm not gonna move anymore. I'm budging. I'm sticking down in my bunker. That's where I'm staying from that point on.
615-737-1025 is the phone number. You can text or call. Our phone lines driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. We'll continue to react to some of the news around franchise tag deadline day and also continue to ask the question, if there's somebody in free agency that you want or in the draft, somebody this offseason that you would stand on the table and beg Mike Borgonzi to go get, who would it be? We've got some answers on the text line. We will get to them coming up next. 615-737-1025. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly, next man up here on 1025 The Game. Right Time HVAC and Cromwell Media are teaming up to bring comfort back to your home. Is your heating system struggling or completely out of commission following the winter storms? You can nominate yourself for the Right Time Home Rescue and tell us your story. Enter today at thegamenashville.com/HVAC, and you could win a new HVAC system installed by Right Time HVAC. Right Time HVAC, locally owned and operated. There's never a wrong time to call Right Time. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly, next man up, 102.5 The Game. Wrapping up our conversation around the Titans offseason here. It's a big day. It is franchise tag day, and Breece Hall has just been tagged by the New York Jets, joining George Pickens and Kyle Pitts. I would expect at least one more today. Indianapolis, that's where the eyes go with Daniel Jones and Alec Pierce, both set to be free agents. Jones has to be the priority there. You don't let the quarterback walk if you think that he's going to be the future. So maybe Alec Pierce gets out there, which has led me to the question of if there's one guy that you would stand up and say, he's got to be a Titan next year, who would it be? You said Tariq Woolen. I said Alontae Taylor. Parker said Alec Pierce. We've got some good answers on the text line. Let's go to Skyler. He says, I wanted anyone but Jeremiah Love, but the more I listen to people and the more I think of it, I want Jeremiah Love to take the pressure off of Cam Ward, and I think he would do great in Daboll's offense this year. If Love can be Bijan Robinson, Jahmyr Gibbs, or even a James Cook-type player for the next 8 years, that's the pick offseason player for me. And it's funny, I am warming on Jeremiah Love, as we talked about earlier. Like, in December, I remember having conversations with you, with TD, of you can't take a running back at 4. That's a luxury pick. And I still believe that, but you do have to look at the entire class. And if there's nobody that you value more than Jeremiah Love, then you have to take him. If the rumors are true, like Matthew Berry put out there this weekend, that the Titans believe Jeremiah Love is the best player in the draft class, they have him number 1 on their board. And they have red flags with Bailey and Reese and Bain and maybe with the wide receivers as well. Tate ran slow. Tyson's got the injuries. Like, if you look at it and say, we would be taking somebody that's a reach just because of their position at 4, instead of taking who we think is the best player in the draft, then take Jeremiah Love. Even though I think just in general, taking a running back at 4 is not a good idea.
Yeah, there are a few things to dissect out of that. The first one is, you make a good point about luxury picks. If the Titans go and have an aggressive free agency where they sign a bunch of players they know they can fill those gaps, then sure, you can have a luxury pick in Jeremiah Love that way. As for another thing on this, like if you're a Mike Borgonzi or a Robert Saleh or anybody else on that Titans roster that goes, public online about, Jeremiah Love is one of the best players on this team in this NFL draft, they're just boosting his draft stock for somebody to trade with them.
I think it might be a smokescreen.
Yeah,
it's very possible it's a smokescreen. But we don't know. We're not going to know until, I've said it before, until the cards start getting turned in on April 23rd. We're not going to know. Are the Titans in love with Jeremiah Love, or are they just trying to get somebody to trade up? Could the Cardinals just take Jeremiah Love in front of them, and then the Titans would get their choice of one of the pass rushers? It's going to be a very interesting draft season. Justin from Greenbrier says, Kenneth Walker, if he gets to free agency, you pick him up and you don't have to draft a running back. That gives Cam a weapon better than Pollard. I like Kenneth Walker. Let's see. Devin and Dixon. No, excuse me. Keegan says, I want Romeo Doubs. Had some concussion issues. Those seem to be in the past with the Guardian cap he wears. The ultimate safety blanket, 6'2", and has good enough routes that he almost can't be covered in the end zone. I think he's severely underrated. I like Romeo Doubs. I went with Wan'Dale Robinson. You went with Wan'Dale Robinson. I think mostly because of what we're hearing. And the Brian Daboll connection there makes sense of, like, he played for him. He's a free agent. All the smoke has been Titans want Pierce, but if they can't get Pierce, they're going to go try and get Wan'Dale Robinson. But I like Romeo Doubs too. I do think there's good options for a solid wide receiver 2 on the market. Probably going to have to pay more money than you should, but a solid wide receiver 2 that you can bring in and start alongside hopefully a draft pick and Chim Dike.
Yeah, I just like the continuity. I mean, in my simulation, you kind of caught the trend of continuity with players on the same college team. Same thing with Wan'Dale Robinson. You have Brian Daboll and Robinson himself. I think that 1-2 punch, it really works for a guy like Cam Ward because of the way that Brian Daboll has talked about Cam Ward, the way he wants to use him and utilize his intangibles and his offensive scheme, and the way he can kind of exploit that with a guy like Wan'Dale Robinson in previous years.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I think I was worried that Robinson and DK would be too similar of players together. TD, we talked through it, and he said that he thinks that DK could be more of a Z and Robinson could play in the slot for you. So I could see it happening. And if the Titans think that he fits, then obviously that would be the reason they make that move. Matthew in Nashville says, don't take a running back in the first round unless you are absolutely sure he is a generational talent. My Steelers made that mistake with Najee Harris. And yeah, that's the point I'm trying to make is like, he has to be your favorite player in the draft class. Like to take him at 4, the Titans have to look at him and say, he's not just a running back. He is a Parker's not listening. He's a playmaker. That's been
You were waiting for me to say that.
I was pointing at you because that's what Parker's been saying. He's not a running back. He's a playmaker. And you look at him, and if you say he is a playmaker who is going to make things way easier on our young quarterback, and he is leaps and bounds ahead of some of the other prospects on our board, I could see it. But you got to be sure, right? Because there are more first-round running back failure stories than there are success stories. Nevada Josh. Here's an interesting one that we haven't talked about a lot. Trey Hendrickson. Thoughts on Trey Hendrickson? I've seen some buzz around the Titans should go after him, and that can be the other side of that line. You have Hendrickson, Simmons. If the John Franklin Myers smoke is real, then him, and then Jermaine Johnson. I like the player. I don't think it's the right time.
Yeah. I looked at it. I closed my eyes and just went, And the reason being is I look at it as a similar situation with Jeremiah Love. It's a luxury pickup. And again, the Titans are not in a luxury pickup situation unless they go and pay a bunch of players in free agency where they can, set themselves up that way. Right now, I just don't see it in the cards. And if they do, then congrats to them. But that means they're going for it.
Trey Hendrickson is 31 years old. So he still has some prime years left. Like, I still think he's going to be a very good player.
Right.
But he hasn't gotten that big deal yet. Like, he signed a lucrative deal with the Bengals, and he got franchise tagged last year. So he's made a lot of money, but he hasn't gotten that big, I just cashed in and got myself generational wealth type of money. And with Trey Hendrickson, you're going to have to probably pay him that. I would say probably 3 years, $80 million would be my guess for Trey Hendrickson, somewhere around there. Last year, he only played in 7 games. He had 4 sacks. I understand he had 17 and a half sack seasons in 2023 and 2024. Will he get back to that at age 31? I don't know. I just think with the Titans this year, you're hoping to take a step forward and be competitive. And Trey Hendrickson may be a very good player for you this year and maybe makes you have one of the better defensive lines in the league if that's the way that it works out. But 2 years from now, 3 years from now, is Trey Hendrickson going to be an elite guy or just a guy that you're overpaying because of what he did 4 years ago? That's the question that I would have with Trey Hendrickson. Great player, and I still think he has some gas left in the tank, but I don't know if the amount of gas matches with what the Titans' window is going to be moving forward.
Yeah, and I just have bad memories of when the Titans signed Jadeveon Clowney when he was coming off a 9-sack season with, I believe, the Browns. Seahawks, excuse me. No, it was the Browns, wasn't it? No, yeah, Seahawks, sorry. He came off 3 sacks, excuse me. I got my years mixed up.
Yeah, he went Texans, Seahawks, Titans, then the Browns.
He had some previous years with the Texans, which was really good, and then went to the Seahawks, a little bit of production, then come to the Titans and just absolutely do nothing, leave and do something else with another team. That's where I'm just like, all right, like I don't want to go up that road again.
Yeah. And I struggle with the letting past players dissuade you from signing future players. We had the whole conversation about Jeremiah Love last week, and this is not me hating on Jeremiah Love, but the people who call in and text in and say, well, the Titans' identity has been having a great running back for their entire time they've been in Nashville. Why not draft one? That has nothing to do with it. Just because Eddie George was great here, just because Chris Johnson was great here, just because Derrick Henry was great here, does not mean Jeremiah Love was great here. And guess what? None of those guys were picked 4th overall. Correct. Eddie was 14.
Correct.
CJ was 25, somewhere in there. It was like late-ish first round. And then Derrick Henry obviously was a 2nd round pick. It had nothing to do with it. And that's why last year it was the same thing. Well, the Titans have never been able to develop a quarterback before. Why would they take Cam Ward first overall? You can't let decisions of past front offices and past coaches dissuade you from what the franchise needs to do next. So I would say don't let Jadeveon Clowney scare you about Trey Hendrickson. But I think you can also look and say he's an aging pass rusher who's looking to cash in. And is the production going to bounce back to 17 and a half sack seasons? Even if he gets back to like his 2021, where he had 14 sacks, that'd be great. How long is that going to last? Are you getting 3 Pro Bowl level seasons out of Trey Hendrickson, or are you just getting 1 and a couple of league average level seasons from a 33-year-old at that point?
And that's what I mean. Like, if you were to sign with a Super Bowl team, I think that's a great thing. But you sign with the Titans, it just doesn't work. And again, I refer back to Jadeveon Clowney because when he was with the Texans in 2017, he had 9.5. Year after that, 9. And then you go to the Seahawks, regress a little bit, have 3 sacks. Come to the Titans and do nothing. You leave, and then you have 9 sacks again with the Browns.
Yeah.
That's why I'm a little apprehensive about this. And again, I try not to let that signing kind of dictate my brain a little bit.
No, I get it.
But again, you could bring the wide receiver situation into this with the Titans. You bring in a veteran wide receiver to help mold that younger guys. That never worked out. So again, I just it's tendencies. It's the roster construction tendencies that I think would be a little apprehensive for me and also scares a lot of Titans fans in general.
Yeah, and I would agree with that. Hendrickson, not a bad player.
Right.
But I don't think it's the right time, the right fit with the Titans. But we'll see. Again, this is Mike Borgonzi and Robert Saleh. They obviously know more about what they want to put on the field this upcoming year. If Robert Saleh looks at it and tells Mike Borgonzi, like, hey, I know that Hendrickson's going to cost a lot, but he would completely unlock our defense and we could be elite from day one, then fine, go do it. I'm not going to completely say it can't happen. I'm just saying, in my mind, I don't know if it matches up with what the Titans' long-term plan should be.
And again, if you go out in free agency this offseason and you sign guys that can help with that signing of a guy like Trey Hendrickson, then go do it.
Yeah.
But if you can't, don't even bark up the tree. That dog's going to go find another tree to bark up. And if it's a solid oak tree with a cat up there, he's more than likely going after that.
615-737-1025 is the phone number if you want to text or call. Our phone line's driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Great stuff on the text line. I always wonder, just like, who is the guy that everybody has either their draft crush on or their free agency crush? Because they're all over the place. For me specifically, I know I've had some good ones and some bad ones. I loved Corey Davis. I was thrilled when the Titans took Corey Davis 5th overall. And obviously, I mean, he was a good player. Didn't end up working out, but like those are the kinds of things I love to get inside the mind of some Titans fans of, like, who are you just dying to get on your team?
Yeah, I mean, when Chigakonkwo was drafted, I wanted Isaiah Likely out of Coastal Carolina. He was coming off a really good season, and then they had the chance. They go and grab Chig because he had a similar stature of Jonnu Smith. Isaiah Likely was the next best thing, and now he backs up Mark Andrews.
Well, 2016 is the year that I was pointing to, and I was not alone in this, so I don't want it to seem like I'm saying, like, I discovered these guys. Honestly, I was hearing from a lot of analysts, so it's like, it's not me, but the 2 guys that I went into day 2 and 3 of the draft in 2016 and wanted, Cooper Kupp and George Kittle. Those were the 2 guys that I was like, man, I want the Titans to get those guys. They took Taywan Taylor and Jonnu Smith, and, you know, obviously we've seen how those careers have worked out. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. We will wrap up hour number 2 on the program after this. Coming up in hour number 3, big college basketball games tonight for Vanderbilt and Tennessee. We'll talk about those, and the Preds are back on the ice for the back end of a back-to-back later tonight as well. 615-737-1025. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly. Next man up, 1025 The Game. Next man up, 102.5 The Game. Wrapping up the second hour of the show on this Tuesday. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly with you. Lots of Titans talk in the early going, and we will get back into the NFL later in the show, and especially if there's any news around franchise tags. Again, the only news we've gotten so far today, Breece Hall has been franchise tagged by the New York Jets. He joins George Pickens and Kyle Pitts as the currently franchised players. We will see if any more are added throughout the day. Again, Indianapolis, I would expect, is going to at least do something before the deadline at 3 p.m. Central Time. But while we have Nick Frazier on the show, wanted to give an opportunity to talk about some Nashville SC as their season is underway, and Nick does a great job covering the team. Had a scoreless draw on Saturday at Dallas in the second game of their MLS season. Then they return home coming up this Saturday. Will host Minnesota before showdown with Miami in the round of 16 in the CONCACAF Champions Cup. So lots of big matches coming up for this team.
Yeah, I watched the Inter Miami game the other night, and I thought, oh, maybe Inter Miami, they were playing Orlando. It's like the Orlando Miami Derby, the rivalry game. And I was like, oh, they're down 2-0. This will be the first time Messi's going to lose in the rivalry game, whatever. And I was like, what am I talking about? Messi's going to come back and win this thing for him. And sure enough, they did. And it just goes to show you Miami is still locked and loaded, ready to go when it comes to the CONCACAF Champions Cup. When they take on Nashville, the first leg will be here, and then the following leg, the second leg will be in Miami. But as of this past weekend for Nashville, that was a scrappy game, a tough game when it came to the tactical schematics of it all. Nashville went with a 4-3-3, which is, I think, one of the first times BJ Callahan has resorted to that. Normally has two midfielders, and that's been Eddie Tagseth and Patrick Yazbek. But this go around, it was Matthew Corcoran, Eddie Tagseth, Patrick Yazbek. And those are your three best midfielders. And I get why you do that, but it came down late in the game where they subbed out Tagseth, and Yazbek was playing more up on the attacking third. And Corcoran's a really good box-to-box midfielder, but he ended up getting a red card, which is not good for MLS play because you're without him going forward just for a game or so. But that to me, I thought was a lack of attention for I don't know. I think you could have at least changed the formation a little bit to maybe go at a 5 at the back. I know in years past, Gary Smith, who laid a great foundation for this club going forward, he would resort to a 5 at the back in some cases. That's just not the way BJ plays. BJ likes to play that attacking, counterattacking soccer, which makes sense. But not having Sam Surge in the lineup due to, believe it was illness, if that's what it was. So it was Hani Mukhtar up top, and then you had Warren Madrigal, the young Costa Rican forward. Again, had a pretty good game. It's tough when you're playing a FC Dallas team that played a 5 at the back, and you can't really bring up that line, that back line, to kind of maybe bait them into seeing something over the top. And they just weren't able to do that. And so it was a 0-0 draw, which is not bad, but they're still up there in the standings. They're still one of the top 5, top 6 teams. Coming up this weekend against Minnesota, that's another team that's kind of reloaded a little bit. A lot of soccer fans, I guess average soccer fans, know the name James Rodriguez, the Colombian international. He plays for Minnesota, so you got to keep an eye out for that. Kelvin Yeboah, he's an Italian international, but a young player at 25. He's a good forward. So there's some key pieces on Minnesota. Going back to the 2023 season when their coach was fired, they brought their interim assistant in. He hasn't taken over that role, and he's changed him from being a bottom of the tier team to now a middle of the pack team, to getting them into the top 5 of the other conference. So kudos to them, but Nashville's going to have a tough task on their hand. And maybe for their case, when it comes to Minnesota, they'll be able to kind of bait them into more of those counterattacking situations.
Yeah, Minnesota coming up on Saturday. That is a 7:30 kick over at Geodis Park. And then we mentioned it, Miami, 2-leg aggregate round of 16 against Miami and Lionel Messi. This is the rivalry. It's funny because it's just like every time there's an opportunity for them to get matched up, it happens. Whether it was the League's Cup final a couple of years ago, this year in the MLS playoffs, they matched up in the first round, and now round of 16, CONCACAF Champions Cup. There's Miami again. What do you think might give Nashville an opportunity to win this time and move on to the quarterfinals?
I think they're center backs. You have Maxwell Walitzi along with Jason Palacios, who's been a reoccurring figure in this lineup. The fact that those two are very similar in archetypes playing on the field, they close down space really well. They're able to kind of spread the ball out if need be. Walitzi came from the Norwegian Premier League. He used to play a 3 at the back at his team overseas, and he would run that left flank a lot. We saw a little bit of that in the first match at Nashville, at Jonas Park, excuse me, in the first game against New England, and it was fun. But again, New England's not a top tier team. I think Nashville will go back to their 4-2-2-2 formation,
Yeah.
which is kind of what they need. And again, I think the best way they can break down an Inter Miami team is to close down those passing lanes in the middle of the field, because that's where Messi likes to really attack a front team like that. And a big plus for Nashville now that I've looked at from the CONCACAF Champions Cup and just reassessed the lineup, BJ Callahan actually has depth on this team for once. You have guys like Rubens Pacius, who is a solid number 9 up top that can really play back to goal, collect the ball, turn his hip open and score. In 2 starts, he has 2 goals. And again, he played last year for Tampa Bay in the USL, had 17 total goals in all competitions for them. That is really good competition. Jordan Knight, a young Canadian, I guess you call him forward / wing back, because he's used at right back sometimes, used as a forward. He scored a goal in this last previous CONCACAF Champions Cup match. So again, this is a team where they're going up against an Ottawa team that runs the Canadian Premier League pretty well. But you're going up against, there's a big gap between MLS and Canadian Premier League.
Right.
And if you can start grabbing some momentum from those younger players and have that confidence going into the next game, you have a substitutions list you can choose from, like, hey, this guy can come in the 65th minute and get us some valuable minutes. And a guy I haven't spoken on, I know we're going to break here, but Reed Baker Whiting, they brought him in from Seattle, young player, has some valuable minutes from the international stage for Nashville, not Nashville, but just the U.S. in general. He can play that left back role if need be. And again, you now have Andy Nahar and Reed Baker Whiting, if they do go with that route, that can run up the flanks and come back. I think this Nashville team has a lot better chance this year to take down a team in Inter Miami.
Nashville now with 1 win, 1 draw in the MLS regular season, a 7-0 win over Ottawa in that 2-leg opening round of the CONCACAF Champions Cup. Big games coming up over the next 8 days. Minnesota on Saturday, and then Miami a week from tomorrow, right here in Nashville for the first leg of that CONCACAF Champions Cup round of 16. So excited for that. Soccer season is underway here in Nashville, and always great to hear from Dr. Crane on what's going on with the boys in gold. 615-737-1025 is the phone number if you want to text or call. Our phone lines driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. We've got 1 more hour left on this Tuesday. When we come back, 2 big games in college basketball across the state today. The Vols and the Commodores looking to get back on track. We will Next man up, 102.5, the game final hour on your Tuesday morning. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly with you, broadcasting live from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. An abrupt end to hour number 2, but we are back. We are all good to go. And ready to talk some college
My bad,
basketball here.
Nashville.
No, you're good. It got away from us there for a second, but we were going to break anyway.
Heart's pumping some blood. We're ready to go, right?
We're all set, and we're going to talk some college basketball here in hour number 3. 2 big games today. The penultimate game of the regular season for both Vanderbilt and Tennessee. Both teams coming off losses on Saturday and big games. Vandy lost on the road at Kentucky. Tennessee dropping a game at home against Alabama that they led by double digits at halftime. The good news is both these teams playing teams towards the bottom of the SEC standings. Vanderbilt at Ole Miss, and Tennessee is at South Carolina. Both these games are on the road, though, and I am ready to classify both of these as close to must-wins as you can get. Obviously, neither of these teams are in danger of missing the NCAA tournament. Both are going to be in good spots for March Madness, but you've got to start to build some momentum, and you got to build some confidence, and Vandy has lost 3 out of its last 4. Tennessee has lost 2 in a row now. These are games you have to win against teams that are inferior in the SEC. And both of these teams could really use a boost heading into their second matchup on Saturday in Knoxville.
Yeah, I brought this up with Connor this past weekend about just Vanderbilt's lineup in general. I think we're starting to see more of a distribution of the ball because, again, you're not having a Tyler Tanner or a Tyler Nickel putting up 30 points a game, if that is. It's more even keel with the point distribution of Duke Miles now back in the fold, coming back from injury. I think that's huge. I think they're just trying to find a little bit of a new identity on the back end of the season. And I think that's okay. I'm not sounding the alarm like you mentioned. Like they're definitely going to make the tournament, but I'm not sounding the alarm of like, oh my goodness, this team is in DEFCON 5 mode. No, like they'll be okay.
Yeah, that's where I am with this team too. They're in no danger of slipping out of the tournament. I mean, they are in danger of falling into day 1 of the SEC tournament, which I think is more important than a lot of people realize. It's like you lose your rest. I guess the one good thing for Vanderbilt is they don't have to travel. Mm-hmm. The tournament being here really does help Vanderbilt in that way of like some of these teams, you finish your season on Saturday and you've got to leave for Nashville on Monday. And you spend as long of a week there as you can, but you make a run to the quarterfinals, you're playing 3 games in 3 days. That can take a lot out of a team. And it's not like women's basketball where like I'm heading to Greenville tomorrow. The women's tournament will go through Sunday, but then the team gets a week off before selection Sunday and then gets ready to go play the NCAA tournament. So you get that built-in rest. That's not how it works for men's basketball. The men's basketball schedule is much more condensed. You finish your regular season Saturday, you spend the next week at the SEC tournament, and a week later, you're playing March Madness games. So playing that Wednesday, even if you're the 9 seed playing the 16, it's an easy win. That's an extra 40 minutes on your legs that you had to play, and you don't get too much time to rest and recover. So Vandy, this is a big game to try and keep yourself out of that bottom 8 in the SEC, because you're teetering right there, tied with a bunch of other teams at 9 and 7.
Yeah, and to your point about the SEC tournament, you're absolutely right. And I kind of compare it to your statement you make about, conference, not conference, but the college football playoff. If you get, X amount of games, you just need to be playing better in November rather than anything else. It's kind of the same thing for basketball. You got to be in your best form in conference play, and especially in the conference tournament. And you're right. Looking at the Vanderbilt team, especially being here in Nashville, I wonder how Mark Byington's team reacts to all that, especially him as a coach, what it's like for him reacting being in your hometown of where you're coaching, because atmosphere plays a lot into this.
This Vanderbilt team, I do think, has the potential to be a second weekend team this year. You look at the players and you say Tyler Tanner, when he's been on, has been one of the better guards in the SEC. Tyler Nickel has been one of the better shooters in the country at times during the season. Duke Miles has been huge when he's been healthy. Devin McLaughlin's been good. Jalen Washington's been coming on. Like there are players on this team, and you look and you say, if they all figure it out and they're playing their best basketball, this is a team that I don't think a lot of other programs are going to want to face in March Madness, because they can put up a ton of points in a hurry. They just haven't been clicking lately. and you've still got time to figure it out, but not a ton. You're starting to run out of games before you get into the postseason. And I think tonight is a big one for Vanderbilt. This is an Ole Miss team that you had to flip your games with. They came up to Nashville back in January during the winter storm, and you barely held on to beat them. It was what, 71-68 was the final, I want to say, in that one. Not one of Vanderbilt's best showings, but you were able to escape with a win. I don't want to see them escape tonight. I want to see them go out there and dominate. This is not a good Ole Miss team. They're one of the 3 worst teams in the SEC. Go out there, crush them, and get yourself feeling good heading into the big showdown in Knoxville on Saturday.
Yeah, a big factor into Vanderbilt's game tonight, I would say, is Devin McLaughlin. Just get him going on the boards, because, again, we saw this past weekend watching the Kentucky game, not a lot of boards for him. And, again, Kentucky's a tall team, and they're a talented team. They have a lot of talent there. But, again, if you can get him in like the 8 to 9 rebounds per game situation, then they've kind of taken control of that for sure. Obviously, that's a lot of rebounds, but that's where you kind of see majority. If you look at back of the box scores for him, if he gets about 8 to 9 rebounds, they're more than likely going to get a green W right there next to their name.
Vanderbilt has lost 7 out of its last 13 since starting 16-0, tied for the best start in program history. So great start. Hasn't quite been as good as you'd want over the last month. And I know people have been putting out Mark Byington's February record over the last 2 years hasn't been very good. But, you'd rather lose these games in February than lose them in March. You would rather go through these growing pains and learn from it than have this happen and end your season 3 weeks later. But you do have to learn from it. You have to make the adjustments, and you've got to be playing good basketball as you go down the stretch. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. Big games across college basketball today. Vanderbilt and Ole Miss. It's an 8 o'clock tip out there in Oxford. 7:30 pregame over on 94.9 The Fan. The Vols play at 5 at South Carolina. We'll get into that game coming up in just a bit. But let's go to our phone lines, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Clay is called in. Clay, thanks for calling. Good morning.
How are we doing, Jake?
Doing great. How are you, Clay?
Now, I think I hear Dr. Crane's voice.
Yes,
That
you do.
is correct. Hey there, Clay.
How are we doing, Dr. Crane?
Fantastic.
Good. Jake, I got a question for you.
Yep.
Is Michaela Blake's the best player in the country?
Yes, she is.
I mean, because I think she is. How many games in a row has she scored over 30 points?
She has scored 30-plus points in 7 of the last 8. She scored 27 against Georgia.
Okay. So if they meet, let's say they meet Texas in the SEC tournament at some point, that game is probably for a 1 seed, is it not?
I would assume so. The selection committee released their top 16 on Sunday, and Vandy was 5, Texas was 4. I would find it hard to believe that if they face off on Saturday, that a head-to-head result wouldn't flip things one way or the other. So yes, I think the winner, if they match up, both teams have to win Friday. But if we get Vandy, Texas in the SEC semifinals, I think the winner is the last 1 seed.
As far as the men are concerned, like you were saying, I think they just need to play better. You need to be playing your best ball going into the postseason, and here's an opportunity this week to, kind of get things back on track. Tyler Nickel, I think, is a big piece of this. All shooters go through slumps, but he needs to start shooting the basketball better from the perimeter.
No, I 100% agree. He has struggled over the last month or so, along with the team. You look back, and he went 8 of 10 in a game against Wake a while back, 8 of 15 in a game. But the last 5-6 games, 1 of 8 against Georgia, 1 of 6 against Tennessee. Like, you'd like to see him start to get back to some consistency from beyond the arc.
Have y'all heard anything definite on? I've heard that maybe a man is not going to play tonight in Tennessee's game. I wonder, with coming off that injury and him being a lottery pick, as they say, is he going to play anymore?
We are actually going to get into that coming up next, because that is a huge development. Nate Ament is not going to play tonight, a high ankle sprain. And the question now becomes is how long is he out? Does he play Saturday? Does he play in the SEC tournament? I think that's all going to need to be figured out. And you make a good point. Him being an NBA draft pick might want to err on the side of caution.
Have a good day, guys.
Yep. Thank you for the call, Clay.
Thanks, Clay.
Clay leading us right into our next segment. Nate Ament not going to play tonight against South Carolina. You got one more regular season game on Saturday against Vanderbilt, and then you come here for the SEC tournament. You got the NCAA tournament right after that. Is Nate Ament going to be out long term? We'll talk about that coming up next as the Vols get ready to take on South Carolina tonight. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. You can text or call. Our phone line's driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly, next man up, 1025 The Game. Next man up, 1025 The Game. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly with you on your Tuesday morning for a little bit longer. Chase and Big Joe are coming up at the top of the hour, and we're getting ready for an important day of college basketball. Just went through Vanderbilt's matchup with Ole Miss tonight. Vandy will face their former player, Malik Dia, again. And Vandy did get the win in Nashville back in late January. They will look for the sweep of the Rebels today. And it's actually a later night tip, 8 o'clock tip-off out there in Oxford. But for Tennessee, it's a big one tonight, too. South Carolina may be the worst team in the SEC, but you're on the road and you're in desperate need of a win. You got up early on Mizzou a week ago and just couldn't hold on. Same thing with Alabama this past week. And now you're without Nate Ament tonight. And I still think this Tennessee team without Ament is good enough to beat South Carolina. But I think the longer term questions is what you're looking at now. You win this game, great. Get you back in the win column, get you back on track. But is Nate Ament going to be available Saturday when Vanderbilt goes to Knoxville? Is he going to be available for the SEC tournament? It's a high ankle sprain. You don't really know how serious those are, right? We talk about it with football all the time. A high ankle sprain, it's like it could be a week. It could also be 3 weeks. It all kind of just depends on how bad it is and the pain tolerance with him. But going to be very interesting for this Tennessee team with Ament getting hurt at maybe the worst possible time.
Yeah, and even Clay mentioned on the call last segment about him being a potential lottery pick. There is a lot at stake, and we kind of talked earlier about Tarek Skubal and his situation with finances. So if that is the case, if Ament thinks that he is a more top contender at the next level, then go ahead, go for that. But if I'm Tennessee, I would shut him down the rest of the regular season. I know going up against Vandy for the last game of the year is important, but I think you shut him down and then you get him ready for SEC tournament play.
And I kind of agree with you because I think the Vols, a win tonight would get them at the very minimum a single bye in the tournament. I don't think that they could fall to Wednesday if they win tonight. So I think you get that, and you're not playing till Thursday. It would be an uphill climb for Tennessee to get to a double bye. I think you'd need to beat Vanderbilt and have some help. I might sit him just to make sure that he's going to be okay. Tennessee tweeted last night an update saying he was not going to play tonight against South Carolina. Here's the exact quote from Tennessee basketball. Ament is out due to a right leg injury sustained Saturday against Alabama. The timetable for his return is to be determined, and he will continue to be evaluated. I do think you're right. I think you sit him out this week, reevaluate him ahead of the SEC tournament. And even if he has to miss the SEC tournament, the big thing is your first round matchup where you could be a 5-12, could be a 6-11, somewhere in there, that he is ready to go for that one and ready to go as you try and make a run through the NCAA tournament.
Yeah. I mean, if it comes down to the SEC tournament being the timetable to come back, let's say the first round, they get a good draw of a team that's probably not going deep in the SEC tournament. I think you either make him available for that game and just sit him on the bench the entire game, or you actually say, hey, we're going to leave you off for this game and then bring you on the following game. I think that's the right move that Rick Barnes should do to keep this team just intact. I get he's the second highest point scorer on the team right now, but you could probably, get some more supplemental play, just moving the ball around a little bit more. And also the rebounds. I know he's up there and getting the boards off the basket there, but you get a guy like Jalen Carey to go in there and get some rebounds. I think you're okay.
I do think it's one of those things where you want him to be out there. And Matthew in Nashville says this: if Nate Ament is the competitor I think he is, he will want to be out there for Saturday in the SEC tournament. And I agree with that. But I think you have to look big picture, not just for Nate Ament's career, but also for the Vols this season. Yes, you would love to win out and maybe get the double bye and go make a run in the SEC tournament. But South Carolina tonight, I think they can win without him. Vandy on Saturday, you're at home at least. I do think there's a better chance Vandy wins if Ament doesn't play, obviously, but I don't think that immediately is like, oh, well, you're never going to win that game with Ament out. It's going to be a competitive game. And the SEC tournament, as much as everybody loves the SEC tournament and those guys go out there, they play hard, they're trying to go win a title. The big picture is Tennessee's trying to make a run in March Madness. And if you can sit Ament for an extra week and make sure he's 100% ready to go, not only does that help you, but I think it's also better for him, somebody who does have a lot of money on the line, if he's a lottery pick in this year's draft. You have to take all of this into account. And I think big picture, it may make more sense to say, hey, we're going to sit him down, we're going to limit him, and we're going to make sure he is raring to go 100% for March Madness.
And again, looking at the last game of the season for Vandy and Tennessee, if Ament doesn't play, I think it's a win-win for both teams because you talked about it earlier, and even the text lines mentioned it. Vandy's struggling a little bit, obviously going into the last couple games of the season.
Yeah.
But I mentioned earlier about the distribution of the ball with Duke Miles being back in the lineup. If you can find some chemistry there and you can kind of start clicking on all cylinders, and if Tennessee drops a game, so what? They're both pretty equal in the SEC conference standings. You can kind of figure that going forward. And then you go to the SEC play, and Vandy can continue that momentum, and then Ament can be healthy going into March Madness. To me, that's a win-win for not only those two teams, but for college basketball as a whole.
It's going to be a very strange week here leading up because both these teams are clearly talented, but they're just not in a great place. And for different reasons. Vandy starts slow and has to dig their way out. You look back at a bunch of their losses, Oklahoma, Missouri, Kentucky. Tennessee was a little different. That one was back and forth the entire way. For Tennessee, it's the opposite. They've been able to get out to these leads, both games against Kentucky, Missouri, Alabama, but they can't hold on. It's strange because you look at the roster and you look at the way they have played this year. There's examples of both these teams looking like second weekend, maybe even Elite Eight teams, right? Tennessee beat Houston earlier on in the season, but they also lost to Syracuse. With Vanderbilt, it's like, all right, well, you started 16-0, but you just haven't looked like the same team since. You had a home loss against Oklahoma. Can these teams find a way to get back to their peak even when they're not playing good basketball right now? This is the week to do it. And for Tennessee, you talk about it, they're in a little bit of a tougher spot because of the injury. Vanderbilt getting healthier, getting Duke Miles back. For Tennessee, Ament injured. Can you still find that spark to get your team playing well as we enter March?
And you also wonder too with Tennessee, like, do they slow the pace of play down a little bit, not having Ament on the court because he's one of the second, I think he is the second highest scoring point scorer on the team.
Yeah, just behind Gillespie.
Yeah, you wonder if you kind of slow the pace of the game down a little bit, like I talked about, pass the ball around, maybe kind of chew a little clock. Again, not fun basketball to watch, but if you're trying to maintain your record, maintain just your seeding, and maintain your players' health, that might be an option there. I'm not sure what Rick Barnes is thinking. I don't know.
Big games tonight, even though they may not be against premier opponents. Vanderbilt is at Ole Miss. They are taking on the Rebels for the second time this season. That is an 8 o'clock tip. And you can listen to that right over on 94.9 The Fan, 7:30 pregame with Kevin Ingram and Tim Thompson. The Tennessee Volunteers playing their second to last game of the season. They will be in Columbia, South Carolina, 5 o'clock tip out there between the Vols and Gamecocks. We will talk some Preds in a second, but I did mention earlier in the show, the SEC Women's Basketball Awards came out. SEC Player of the Year, Michaela Blakes. SEC Freshman of the Year, Aubrey Galvin. SEC Coach of the Year, Shea Ralph. Elena Morris, who does great work with Vandy 247, put it out. This is just the 6th time in SEC history that a school has swept those 3 awards. Freshman, coach, player.
That tells you something about Shea Ralph and just what she's building over there. Really.
It's special. And I'm glad she won Coach of the Year because, and I do want to say Dawn Staley deserves more flowers for what she does. 15-1 in the SEC is not easy. Her team's going to be a 1 seed again. She deserves a lot of credit for what she does, and I feel like she doesn't because that's the expectation, right? Like you look and you say, well, South Carolina was picked to finish first. They picked first. They finished first. But she couldn't be SEC Coach of the Year this year. It had to be Shea Ralph with what she's done. Vandy lost 4 starters from last season, and you bring in a couple of transfers. Jacqueline Mwanintanda, Aaliyah Del Rosario, who's played some important minutes lately. You bring in Aubrey Galvin as a freshman and Ava Black, but you also get back Sasha Washington and you develop Justine Passat into what she's become, which is, a great third option shooter and rebounder defender for this team. Shea Ralph deserves all the credit for the turnaround for this team. They made the tournament the last 2 years, but I don't think anybody looked at it and said, this is going to be a 1 seed in the NCAA tournament. And they are 2 wins away from being a 1 seed in the NCAA tournament. Dawn Staley deserves a lot of credit for what she does at South Carolina. And there are years where she should win SEC Coach of the Year just because of how dominant her teams have been. But this is not one of those years. Shea Ralph, well-deserved SEC Coach of the Year.
Indeed. And going into the SEC tournament, because you'll be there Friday, how do you see Vandy matching up against other teams around the SEC? Obviously, they played all season long, but tournament ball is a little different.
This is going to be an interesting weekend for Vandy because you've got Ole Miss on Friday, and that's been a team that Vandy has struggled with over the past few years. The style they play, they're really physical. They don't shoot a ton of threes. It's a lot of big, long guards. Cody McMahon is their star player who transferred from Ohio State. So I think Vandy could play with them. I mean, they dug themselves out of a 20-point hole and took the lead in that game back in January, just ran out of gas a little bit. I think that's a game Vandy can win. I think it would be a big momentum confidence boost to win that game. That's the likely opponent on Friday. Ole Miss will face the winner of Texas A&M and Auburn on Thursday. So Vandy will get the winner of that matchup. And then if you move on, you likely face Texas, and that's for a 1 seed. So getting into that game would be massive. You get a chance to play 40 minutes to be a top seed in your bracket in the NCAA tournament. And then you win that one, and it's 40 minutes for an SEC championship. So it's going to be a fun weekend. Lots on the line. I'm heading out there tomorrow. So excited to be out in Greenville again.
That'll be fun for you, man.
Yeah. It'll be a 5 o'clock Central Time tip on Friday for the first one. 4:45 pregame on 94.9 Fan. So excited for that. Hopefully Vandy can come back with some hardware. That'd be and a 1 seed in the NCAA tournament.
Love to see it.
It'd be great. I will actually be out on the show tomorrow, and so we'll get into that later. But Connor and Corey Curtis will be in. So
Fun.
Excited for that. You guys will get to a little change of pace on Wednesdays. I'm making my way out to Greenville. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. If you want to text or call, our phone lines driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. The Predators back on the ice again tonight. Yesterday, tough loss against Detroit in that afternoon game at Bridgestone Arena. We will continue to talk about the Preds and what their plans could be leading up to Friday's trade deadline. We will also keep an eye on any NFL news coming out. It is franchise tag deadline day. Already have seen Breece Hall receive the franchise tag this morning. George Pickens and Kyle Pitts got theirs earlier this week. We're expecting more news. We will let you know if anything comes out before we wrap up here. A couple more segments on this Tuesday. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly, next man up, 102.5 The Game. Next man up, 1025 The Game. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly. Couple more segments on the show. We're going to talk some Preds. I did want to mention, I brought this up to you, Nick, in the break before the last segment, and Jerks and Profar suspended for the full year for the Atlanta Braves. His second time testing positive for PEDs. So that is tough for the Braves. Profar was suspended for what, 60 games last year?
I thought, 60 or 80 games.
Yeah,
I think it was 80.
It might have been 80. And yeah, so his second offense, it is a full season. Jeff Passan tweeting that out about 20 minutes ago.
Come on, Profar. What are you doing, man? Braves need you.
I know. Tough news for Braves fans in the area. I don't know how much was expected out of him, especially after the suspension last year, but he is going to miss the entire season, at least based on Jeff Passan's reporting. But the Predators, they've got a big one tonight, taking on the Columbus Blue Jackets, trying to avoid a third straight loss in overtime in Dallas on Saturday. Yesterday, we're up 2-1. Gave up 3 unanswered goals to end the game. Detroit taking it 4-2. You're now 4 points out of a playoff spot. You've got Columbus today, Boston on Thursday, trade deadline on Friday. This is a huge game for the Predators because not only do you have the trade deadline looming, you look ahead after you play Boston on Thursday, you have to go on the road. You get the yearly SEC tournament road trip. Buffalo on Saturday. That's not technically part of the road trip. I'm sure they'll come home between that. Then you go Seattle, Vancouver, Edmonton, Winnipeg over a week span. This is going to be a really tough month for this Preds team, but also lots of opportunities for them, right? You're playing the teams in front of you, chance to start to catch up. But I think you've got to show tonight that this team is still committed, is still right there in the playoff race with a win on the road against Columbus.
Yeah, and you start that off with a statement win, and that statement win has to be like a 4-goal night. And if it could come from Philip Forsberg, Steven Stamkos, Robin Yossi, if he wants to get in on the scoring, party. But this has to be a statement win, not only just for the guy's confidence, but for a guy like Barry Trotz. And you made a good point about this in the first hour of, he has to figure out who he's going to offload if they are to go trade somebody off of the deadline. Like, you can't be coming out and barely winning the game 3-2 or 2-1. You can't. You have to have a convincing win to know that you have a direction going forward.
Yeah, this team needs to prove that they are the team that has dug their way out of the hole, not the team that dug the hole. Mm-hmm. And the last couple of weeks, it's been back and forth. There have been some impressive wins. There's also been some head-scratching losses for this team. So I think tonight is massive. Columbus is in pretty much the exact same situation as you in the Eastern Conference. They're 3 points back, of the Boston Bruins for the final wild card spot. So these are 2 desperate teams trying to figure out where they stand in the balance of this trade deadline. I think there are going to be a decent amount of buyers. Some of these Stanley Cup contenders that feel like they're a piece away. I look specifically at Vegas. Vegas is always aggressive. They could go out looking for somebody. The teams in the Central, I mean, it's an arms race with Colorado, Dallas, and Minnesota. That's 3 of the top 4 teams in the NHL in one division. They're going to have to work because almost certainly it's going to be Dallas versus Minnesota in the first round of the playoffs, which, again, 2 top 5 teams in the NHL facing off in the first round. You've got to improve your roster. Max made a good point when he was on last week of what looked like it was going to be a serious seller's market maybe isn't quite going to be that, because you look at the Eastern Conference and you thought maybe Toronto and Florida and New York, New Jersey, like some of those teams that have talent but weren't quite living up to it might make a push and try and go get some players at the deadline. Those 4 teams are pretty much completely out of it now, and it wouldn't make much sense for them to go buy. So there's going to be a market for these players the Preds are trying to move. It's just a question of Barry Trotz. How aggressive do you want to be in moving some of these players, and what kind of offers do you need to see in order to move off of some of your star guys?
Yeah, and you look at teams like Pittsburgh, you look at teams like Boston Boston's in that second wild card spot, but you look at Pittsburgh, they're holding a good spot in the Metro in the middle. So I don't know. If you're Barry Trotz, do you offload a few players to some of those teams? Because Pittsburgh, I'm not sure what they're going to do with Sidney Crosby and Getty Malkin in the near future, but I'm sure they're definitely trying to go for it. I mean, why would you not want to go after a team and kind of abuse their their future in a roundabout way. Because if they're going to go for it, they're going to give up the farm.
Well, and we saw with the Preds, 3 seasons ago in David Poyle's last deadline. This is likely Barry Trotz's last deadline. Poyle sold off a ton of those role players and got back really good returns. The one we'll always bring up is the Tanner Jeannot trade. Still have no idea how David Poyle pulled that off to get 2 first-round picks back for Tanner Jeannot.
David Poyle special, man.
I mean, that is what I think the Preds are looking for. And if they're not getting those offers that is like, man, how did they get that much back for him? Then maybe they won't do it. But I think that's what Barry Trotz is looking for. He's going to try and take advantage of some desperate teams that may overpay for some of the players the Preds have available.
And you wonder too, and I bring up Jonathan Marchessault's name again, having the history with Las Vegas, they're obviously in first place in the Pacific.
Do you send him back?
Do you send him back? And obviously he has to waive the no trade clause, but do you send him back to the point where maybe he has a good chemistry with, Mitch Marner, and that the fact that they could bring a new marriage to that team and get them over the hump because they only have 70 points. And I'm not trying to play, the point game, but you compare them to other teams on the other side of the conference. You think, are they that good enough to really take on another team? So I think if they were to add a guy like Marchessault and bring back some of his old form to them, that could be a good spot.
It is funny looking at Vegas. They have 28 wins. Anaheim has 33, but Vegas is in first place in the Pacific Division because they have 14 overtime losses this year.
Isn't that crazy?
14. I mean, that's the most in the league by, I guess Pittsburgh has 13 too.
The Kings are tied with them at 14 as well.
Oh, I didn't scroll down. Man, that's still tough. And I get it. The way they do it all makes sense. The way they do the point system, you get the game to overtime, you're playing 3-on-3. It shouldn't be all or nothing. I get the overtime point, but it is funny when you extrapolate and just combine the records. Vegas is in first place at 28-32. Anaheim is in second at 33-26. It's just funny. Winning more games doesn't necessarily mean you're getting more points.
Yeah, I brought this up with Greg Wyshynski a while back when I was on with Big Joe. I think Chase was out for a brief time, and I was like, why not go to the soccer system? Just go 3 points for a win, and you get 1 point for a tie and call it a day.
Yeah, I could see that, but it
would throw a lot of wrenches.
It would change a lot of things, but I could totally see that maybe being an option because it is. I mean, it's crazy to see the Vegas is technically below 500 when you look just purely at wins and losses, and they're in first place.
Yeah, I just think if you see, the last 4 or 5 minutes of a game, you see the tempo in the game change a little bit.
Yeah.
That because those points matter more. It just matters more when you have 3 points instead of 2 or 1.
I think if you would do that, you'd have to go back to 4-on-4 or 5-on-5 in overtime because those points would mean it would be 3 versus 1 instead of 2 versus 1. I don't know if you could go 3-on-3 at that point. And
well, no, I'm not saying you get 3 points in overtime. When I'm saying in general,
so you're saying
3 points for regulation, 1 point for overtime. If you follow what I'm saying.
Would it be 3 points for a regulation win, 2
Correct.
for an overtime win, 1 for an overtime loss, none for a regulation loss?
I'd be okay with that.
Isn't that's the point system they used in the Olympics, I think.
Yeah, I'd be okay with that.
Look at us.
Reinventing the wheel.
Innovating. Let's go to our phone lines driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Adam in Portland is called in. Adam, thanks for calling. What you got for us today?
Hey, man, so 3 points out and trade deadline on Friday. Is there any chance that we spend some of this capital that we've built up and go and get a player? Because if you're that close, there's somebody that's bound to help your hockey team. You don't have to just be a seller right now, do you, when you're this close to playoff? The only thing I hate worse than having being in purgatory where we are right now is not making the playoffs and not getting to see playoff hockey, at least the series. So I don't know, dude. I feel like we're close enough and we built enough assets. The one good thing Barry could have done was get us some assets that we should be able to trade and get a player right here.
I totally get that sentiment of fans want to see playoff hockey, but Barry Trotz has to be looking at the long-term and overall outlook of the team. And I think you have to honestly look at this team right now and say, yeah, you're within striking distance of a playoff spot. But Parker and I talked about this yesterday. If you get in, are you going to beat Colorado in a 7-game series? Do you think this team
They've played Colorado good this year?
I know they have.
It's possible.
I know, but the playoffs, it's a little different.
It's very true.
I look at it and I just say, yes, you could say, let's go be buyers and try and add to this team. But what's it going to get you? Like a first round loss to Colorado, is that worth giving up some of these assets that Barry Trotz has been able to pile up? That's the question. Maybe Barry Trotz thinks yes. Maybe he thinks that there's a missing piece to this team that they can upgrade and that it can completely change the makeup of the roster. But I don't see that being as realistic. As this team probably needs to trade away a couple of guys that they feel like can bring back a good return. You bring up some young guys and finish out the rest of the season. We talk about that last trade deadline for David Poile. They traded away a bunch of veterans and brought up the young guys, and the young guys almost made the playoffs still. So it's not impossible for this team, even if you get rid of Hala or Bunting and a couple other pieces, Smith or McCarron. Like, you trade away a couple of those guys, this team could still be competitive the way they are now. You're just getting more assets for the future.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm in the camp of, look, you got a bunch of old guys, not old guys, just vets, well-seasoned guys that play well in NHL. Go after it. And again, you make a good point about the younger guys. You have guys like Riker Lee, Aiden Fink, who's playing well at Penn State, by the way, that you have a future. I'm not saying you're going to give those guys up anytime soon, but maybe you offload one or two pieces that are in the AHL right now that you can kind of say, we're not mortgaging the future, but we can still use those as trade pieces to where you can go grab another guy to upload or just lift up this offensive power.
And that's fair. If Barry Trotz views somebody in the farm system as redundant, repetitive, it's like, hey, yeah, this is a player that other teams value, but there's not really a spot for us in our future plan. Then maybe that makes sense to move him and get somebody who can help you now. I just view it as, I think it's going to be a soft sell for the Preds. I would say Ryan O'Reilly is probably not going to get traded. You're not trading Stamkos. Marchessault is the questionable one, right? Like, I think that more depends on him than it does on the Predators. So I don't think you're going to be getting rid of some of the big pieces, but I do think the Predators will be more sellers than buyers at the deadline.
I just see the Marchessault situation. Like, think about it. You're going to a place you're familiar with in Las Vegas. They're already first in their current division. You can definitely do some damage with Mitch Marner on a power play and or just on the same line if that is the case. Why would you not want to waive your no trade and say, yeah, let's go back to Vegas and see what we can do? And again, you're not really losing. You're wagering much of your future. If you're the Preds, you're probably gonna have to eat some of that salary from Marchessault, but minus that, I'm sure that'll be happy for both ends. And if they do get some small piece of, I don't know, some piece of the pie of a young talent that's somewhere in, like, not saying the OHL or whatever it is, maybe the AHL, I don't know. Go do that, because again, you're setting it up for the future. You're offloading something that didn't help with the current roster, and yet you can still maybe make a push this upcoming season. That's just how I look at it. I think this team has a lot of value to where they can actually make a playoff push. If they don't make any like strong moves to bring somebody in, I think it's a lost opportunity.
And I get that mindset. And Adam, I totally hear what he's saying of, you have all these prospects, you have all these picks. How many do you need? Like, why not look at this team that's been playing better hockey over the last few months and give them a chance and give them a boost? I just don't think long-term that's what Barry Trotz views for this organization. I think he looks at it and says, what would that do for us outside of maybe getting us one playoff series, which is great. Everybody loves playoff hockey, especially here. I don't know.
But at some point, you got to turn the page, Jake. Like, if you're going to have Stamkos on your roster on this team after the deadline, if you're going to have O'Reilly on the roster after the deadline, same thing with Forsberg and Roman Josi, Saros, so forth. Obviously, they're not trade chips right now, but I'm saying if you're going to have those guys on for the long haul, you're going to have to go for it at some point. No, and look, if I'm the Preds, if I'm Barry Trotz, this is your time. Try to dig yourself out of your own hole. You can do this.
Sometimes you got to just stop digging, though.
Yeah.
I get it, though. Like, the way this team is constructed right now, they should be contending. They're not, though. And it's like, do you keep firing resources into trying to make this work? Or do you want to see if you can kind of retool it? Does not seem like they're on board with a full-on rebuild, which has been proposed by some people out there. I know Adam on DVD is huge on this team needs to take a big step back because they never really have. It doesn't seem like they're in on that. It doesn't seem like they're in on going for it. I think it's going to be somewhere in the middle.
Yeah. I like to be optimistic. I think this team has a lot of mature players that can get them over the hump, and it's just a matter of trying to figure out. I don't know if it's a system. I don't know. I'm not too much of a hockey savant.
Yeah.
If it is the system, then somehow make some tweaks to it. But I mean, Stamkos has 30 goals right now. Like, I mean, that's pretty darn good. He's
Yeah.
making his way up the ladder. And again, if you can do that and supplement that with a Roman Yossi or Philip Forsberg, let's do it. I'm all in. You know where my chips are. I'm all in at the poker table or the blackjack table. Get me a Stanley Cup. That's all I'm wanting right now.
615-737-1025. That's our phone number. On our text line, Matthew in Nashville says Gentry Estes implied in Tennessean this morning that the Preds and the fans shouldn't be so quick to want to be sellers at the trade deadline, reviving the tired Poyle notion that, well, you never know what can happen in the playoffs. So maybe that's implying that they're not going to sell as much. We'll see. We got about 72 hours until the trade deadline. So lots could change over the next 3 days, especially with 2 games remaining, tonight against Columbus and then Thursday at home against Boston. 615-737-1025. We got one more segment on this Tuesday. Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly, next man up, 1025 The Game. Wrapping up the show on this Tuesday, Jake Lyman, Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly, Chase and Big Joe are coming up right after us. We've gotten all over the place today. Did our Titans offseason simulations, lots of different moves that we made. And I mean, by the time we're speaking next, Nick Frazier, next Tuesday on the show, free agency will not officially be open, but there could be new Titans. The legal tampering period opens on Monday. So excited for next week. We will likely have some moves to talk about. Did want to mention it is franchise tag deadline day. Breece Hall was tagged by the New York Jets. Adam Schefter reporting earlier this hour, the Seahawks not expected to tag Kenneth Walker. So he will reach free agency.
Interesting. I mean, Titans, hey, there you go. Bring them back home to Tennessee.
Well, and last year we talked a lot about what the Titans do at quarterback in free agency is going to tell us what they're doing at number one. They signed Brandon Allen, and that was it. So it told you, all right, they're going to take Cam Ward at number one. I think what the Titans do at running back might tell you a ton about what they're thinking at number four. If you go out and get a Kenneth Walker and spend $10 million a year, are you really going to double down and take Jeremiah Love at 4? That doesn't seem like strong roster building ideas to me, is to pay $10 million for a running back and then go spend a top 5 pick on one. I know he's a playmaker, not just a running back, but it's one of those things.
Our favorite word.
You've got to allocate your resources to different spots. So I think with the Titans, keep an eye on what they do in free agency at those main positions we talk about: edge, running back, wide receiver. I think it'll tell you what they feel they're going to be able to do when April rolls around in the draft.
How would you view this, Jake? Say if Kenneth Walker and Tyler Linderbaum are both available there, say you go grab Linderbaum first. Do you think that would entice a guy like Kenneth Walker to then sign with the Titans? Or would you say, oh, if they were to go after Walker first, and you're thinking, what's the direction? Do you go for the draft? Do you just leave Linderbaum out there to dry for another team? How would you approach that?
Yeah, I don't know. It's like, can you go with the big splash and maybe that entices other guys to come play for you? Like if you bring in Linderbaum and bring back Zeitler and you look at that offensive line, you say, man, the interior of that offensive line, Skoronski, Linderbaum, Zeitler, that might be intriguing to a running back to come play for the Titans. So it's going to be a fun free agency week. Titans have the most cap space in the league to spend. And now the question over the next 3+ hours becomes what happens with Alec Pierce, because all of the reports, I believe Jeremy Fowler put it out there, I think it was Tony Pauline put it out there, that if Alec Pierce hits free agency, the Titans are going to be one of the major players for him. So Indianapolis has some things to figure out with Daniel Jones and Alec Pierce, and it could end up playing a big role in what the Titans free agency plan is.
Yeah, and if they go Alec Pierce, good for them, but there might be another option out there for you.
This is going to be an interesting week coming up. And again, next week when Dr. Crane is with us on Tuesday, likely we'll have some moves to report about the Titans. So I can't believe the offseason is here. Free agency is less than a week away, and excited for that. Dr. Crane, always great to have you on.
Appreciate you having me, Jake. These are always fun every Tuesday.
I will not be on the show tomorrow. March, I inside baseball, I told Chase McCabe when I was like prepping for the SEC season, I'm like, March is going to be kind of all over the place. It might be week to week, just like depending on our travel schedule. And so we're heading to Greenville tomorrow, got the double bye in the SEC tournament. So I will be doing the shows live from Greenville Thursday and Friday. I'm going to be out tomorrow, but don't worry, Corey Curtis will still be here. Connor Newt going to fill in for me. Should be a fun show, 9 a.m. tomorrow. I'll be back on Thursday. We'll have TD back for his full show. So excited for that as well. That'll do it for us. For Nick Frazier, Parker Kelly, I am Jake Lyman. Coming up next, Chase and Big Joe. Don't go anywhere. You're listening to 102.5 The Game.